It is Wednesday night in East Lansing, Michigan. Come on in, gather around, gather around, gather around. My name is Jim Comparoni, publisher, SpartanMag.com. Couple minutes late, kicking off again tonight. I was looking at some Peyton Kirkland film, trying to cram some of that, get the latest information to all the Michigan State fans out there. 9:15 p.m. on a Wednesday night. I know it's late, but it just became dark here in the Midwest. I know in the East Coast it's been dark for about an hour, but that's the way we do it here. We go on the air as soon as it gets dark because we don't want to waste any daylight. That precious June sunlight, daylight. We don't want to start this thing at 7 o'clock at night and bring people in for that. We want to keep people out running around, keep them in the backyard doing summer things. I hope everybody's having a great summer, a great kickoff to the summer. It is late June already, and we are only, 5 weeks away from August camp beginning, 4 weeks away from Big Ten Media Days. I think it's in Chicago this year. Come on in, gather around, file in nicely, be kind to one another. It's one of the places in the world where we can still be kind to one another, even if we disagree about Michigan State things and college football things. College football is a friendly, happy place, happy thing for Michigan State fans after last year's 11-2 season, ranked number 9 in the country, number 8, I think, in the coaches' poll. College football, they love that college football in East Lansing, Michigan. That's where I am right now in the SpartanMag.com world headquarters, East Lansing, Michigan, about 2.1 miles away from Spartan Stadium, but that's it in the background right there. And want to make sure that the looks like the video or the audio is working. Looks like everybody can hear what I'm saying. So what we're going to do now, if you're not familiar with any of this business, my name, Jim Comparoni, publisher, SpartanMag.com. It is the Michigan State website for Rivals.com. It is the source for Michigan State sports. It is the daily narrative for Michigan State sports. It is the church of what's happening now for Michigan State sports. And today, earlier, at the Underground Bunker message board, which is the premium message board for Michigan State fans over at SpartanMag.com, for SpartanMag.com subscribers. If you've not heard of SpartanMag.com, go over there, check it out. There's a lot of free content all the time and also a lot of recruiting information and other information behind the paywall. That's how we pay the bills. That's how I feed my family. So don't get offended that it's a premium website. Try to have some free information and some premium information. Go on over there, check it out. If you like this content, you're going to love that. In the meantime, give us a thumbs up right here. That helps us with algorithms. Subscribe to the channel. That helps everything. We appreciate that support. Appreciate all the support from Spartan Maggers worldwide, and we will be hearing from Michigan State fans, Spartan Maggers, from around the country tonight via the Mailbag. Earlier today, at the Underground Bunker message board, I invited Michigan State fans, SpartanMag.com subscribers, to post questions over at the Underground Bunker message board. I will be fielding those questions tonight. I have 16 or 17 questions. I'll have to look at it. I might as well tell you that number right now. Last week, we did get to all 15 of them. It looks like we've got about 17, 18. I think about 18 of them tonight. A couple of them had to cut it off. The last 3 or 4 didn't get a chance to get into those, but we appreciate those questions. We might open up the phone lines a little bit later also. Last week had Jason Killip on. Does a great job covering Michigan State recruiting for us at SpartanMag.com. Probably won't have him tonight. Celebrating a birthday, Jason Killip, tonight, tomorrow. Paul Konadijk doing a great job covering Moneyball. Go over to SpartanMag.com or here on the YouTube channel. You can see some of Paul Konadijk's highlights from last week's Moneyball, kicking it back off after a 2-year absence. They're at Holt High School now. Nice facility over there. And I will be there tomorrow on Thursday. By the time you're watching this, if you're watching this after Thursday, it will have already happened. Go over to SpartanMag.com. God willing, we'll have some good coverage over there. So let's get right to the questions. In the meantime, over in the chat area, feel free to post some questions there. We will get to those in lightning round fashion or slower as the evening progresses. But I'm fired up and ready to go. College football season. Now, I don't like to wish away the summer. You know, you hear a lot of national college football talk shows, and they're always like, only 5 weeks away till college football starts. And I know I kind of said that a minute ago, but I didn't say it in a way that's like, rah, rah, we're happy it's almost college football season. I'm just reminding people it's 5 weeks till August camp begins. But I'm not a person that's like, hurry up, fall, hurry up and get here, because I like summer. I like fall too. I like spring. I like winter. I like all 4 seasons. Count them, all 4 seasons. I like them all, but I'm not in a hurry to wish any of them away. Don't want to wish away our lives that quickly, do we? Appreciate the summer, especially in the Midwest. Now, I can understand it, people that live in the Southeast, where it's 175 degrees every day, that not only are they addicted to college football in a way that's borderline unhealthy, but I respect that. So they love their college football, But also, when college football is coming, that means that the temperatures that creep into nearly 4 digits are coming back down to something a little bit more reasonable. So they celebrate the cooling off period. Here in the Midwest, we love it when it's 80, 85, 88, 95 degrees. Yes, I said 95 degrees. I like it like that too. And it's only for about 11 weeks, so we don't wish that away that quickly. You know what I'm saying? Let's go to the mailbag. Question number 1. Got about 19 of these questions. This is from Alex from Los Angeles. He says, what is my best guess on the next commitment for Michigan State, excluding By Job? By Job is a defensive end, rush end from Norman, Oklahoma. Going to be deciding real soon his top 3 Michigan State that he announced were Michigan State, Oklahoma, and Alabama. I think Vanderbilt and Miami might have actually been in the top 3, but officially he's saying Alabama and Oklahoma. Not sure Alabama and Oklahoma have gone full blast. Pretty sure they haven't, because Alabama's is all over the best of the best, right? By Job is good, very good candidate, good prospect. Alabama took a long look at him, but Alex from Los Angeles is saying, excluding him, who's the next commitment? Now Job, what do we have for Job here? I think we'll talk about him a little bit later also. So Job, earlier today, dropped his top 3 of Oklahoma, Michigan State, and Alabama, and he's planning to decide within the next couple of weeks. And I think Michigan State's got a really good shot there. I would predict Michigan State gets By Job. And By George, I think we're going to have some video of By Job a little bit later. But Alex is asking, besides Job, next commitment. I would say Peyton Kirkland would be the favorite in that category. He's planning to decide in July. Peyton Kirkland, offensive lineman, massive offensive lineman, Orlando, Florida, Dr. Phillips High School, 6'7", 325, ranked the number 226 player in the country by Rivals.com. He visited Florida June 10th, Oklahoma June 9th, Michigan State this past weekend, Miami June 20th. So Michigan State's in there battling with the Gators, the Hurricanes, the Sooners, and the Spartans. Michigan State in there knee-deep in all that stuff, kicking it around, scoring points. Scored a lot of points with Peyton Kirkland when he visited last weekend. And he told Jason Killip that Michigan State's his leader. Jason asked him if Michigan State was the leader prior to the visit, and he said, no comment. Not sure what that means. But Peyton Kirkland, big, 6'7", 325, moves okay. I've got to see some more film on him in terms of against really good speed rushers. I don't know if that film exists in the T-shirt camps, but I saw just a moment ago, I looked at some of his pass protection. He moves okay, and he will only get more athletic from here, I would imagine. And at 6'7", 325, when he gets his hands on you, there's a lot of force. And he's the big jumbo type offensive lineman that Michigan State is going after these days. Now, a lot of programs like Peyton Kirkland, but Michigan State, offensive lineman after offensive lineman after offensive lineman, a lot of these big jumbo types. Chris Kapilovic, not messing around, going after a big monster class this year of offensive linemen. Still trying to reel in some of them. You know, Miles McVay's out there. Chase Besantis is out there. These are national top 100, top 150 type of guys. And also, you know, Cole Dillinger's out there, a guard from Clarkston, Michigan, 6'4", 250, number 4 player in the state of Michigan. It's looking like Michigan State, LSU, and Purdue for him. I don't think he took an official visit to LSU. His brother plays at LSU. Michigan State is in on so many good offensive linemen. Now, would they take him as a guard? You know, that's war room confidential stuff. We don't know. Would not shock me, and he could be deciding at any time. And he says he's just going to post it when it happens. Would not shock me if Dellinger ends up at Purdue. Purdue's an interesting compromise candidate. Michigan State war room decisions, full blast all the time. We're not sure. Purdue, you can bet they're going full blast. He'd be their top offensive line recruit. In Michigan State, he'd be one of a few that, as they're trying to put together a big-time offensive line class. I'm trying to keep my ear to the ground a little bit more to make sure I'm not off base with any of that, but that's my read right now in all that situation. So I'd have to say Job, then Kirkland would be my odds-on favorite. Let's go over here to the comment area, so see who's showing up at this point. We got Old Tuck, the bell cow. Old Tuck from the old Seaway Conference. We know Old Tuck. He's from Austin, Texas, by way of Ludington, Michigan. He believes Lake Michigan is the best of the Great Lakes. SpartanMag.com Great Lakes Power Poll still has Lake Huron, number one, for, I think, I have to add it up, but I think it's 112 straight weeks. Lake Huron, strong. And got Old Tuck. He's in the middle. Rob South running the point. MJ on the wing from Hong Kong. Good to have MJ from Hong Kong. Brian Bemis at the other wing. And Brad Fashenko at the stretch 4 tonight, also from Austin, Texas. So the center and the stretch 4, really strong front line for us tonight. A couple of guys checking in from Austin, and they're keeping Austin weird for us. Question number 2, Mike from Granville, Michigan, says, do you think Brandon Wright will be able to play defensive end on all 3 downs, or is he exclusively a pass rush specialist? Great question from Mike in Granville. He knows his football, knows Brandon Wright, knows his Michigan State roster, knows the strengths and weaknesses, knows the inner workings of the defensive end position. Brandon Wright, former running back, been trying to make him into a pass rusher, and he's gotten better and better. Looked pretty good in the spring scrimmage. Can he stay on the field to also play rundowns, first down, second down? I don't think he would be a guy that would be starting and doing that necessarily. I'd have to look at that depth chart a little bit more closely. What's going on there? But if he gets caught on the field and it's a run play, I think he can survive. I don't know if he can do it for like 50 plays and be the guy, down after down after down. You got Piotrowski, of course. Chris Bogle, the transfer from Florida, who is an athletic guy who showed some strength in that scrimmage in some ways. Tank Brown trying to come around. But, Brandon Wright's right in there, I think, ahead of Michael Fletcher. Fletcher's got some work to do. It's an important time for him. But Michigan State not real strong in defensive end. From what we've seen from Brandon Wright, I'm not sure I'd be completely confident saying that he can do the job. He has to prove that to us as observers. Not a position of depth. That's why they went out and got Bogle, right? Brandon Wright, they're happy with the way he's coming along. Is he ready for that type of prime time? That's what you're asking. I've not seen it. That would be a major development if he came in and was able to provide that. That'd be a big boost for the team and the season. You know what? Although we saw him play a little bit in the bowl game. You've seen what I saw last fall. I'm going to have to go back and watch that scrimmage one more time to see him go against Spencer Brown and some of those guys and see how strong he looked against the run. I'm going to write that down as homework. I didn't bring a pen. The dog ate it. Homework. Watch Brandon Wright in the scrimmage. And the scrimmage was only, 40 snaps? So it's not a real big specimen to draw from, but it's all we've seen since the bowl game. And Brandon Wright, made some noise late last season, especially, showed that running back speed a few times, converging from the weak side, athletic guy, learning. Now he's learning under Brandon Jordan. So can he get strong and play the point of attack in a run play? That's what you're asking right now. I can throw it out there and say, yeah, he's ready. He can do it. He's going to be great. And people be excited like, oh, man, Brandon Wright, he's going to get it done. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't know. Good question, though. Question number 3, Tony from Northville says Peyton Kirkland has a commitment date set. Do you have a general sense of which way he is leaning? He'd be a big get, literally, says Tony from Northville. Thanks for the question, Tony from Northville. I was in Northville last Saturday. Northville and Novi for some baseball tournament stuff going on. Kirkland, talked about him earlier, number 226 in the country. Orlando, Florida, Michigan State leads. Plans to decide in July. Visited Florida, Miami, Oklahoma, Michigan State. He was planning to go to Texas A&M last weekend, but he decided not to. He told Jason Killip, I've seen enough. I don't need to see any more schools. In other words, the decision is in. That's what it sounds like. General sense, he says Michigan State's a leader, so that's what I'm going to go with right now. So I think he's going to commit to Michigan State at some point, but is the recruitment for Peyton Kirkland over at that point? No. You got to keep defending, keep selling. Quite frankly, a lot of these guys are interested in name, image, and likeness packages. So you have to keep working on those things. But getting a commitment, these days, commitments 85% of the time hold true. So it's not nothing, if I can use a double negative. All right, we are going to open up the phone lines. I don't know if anyone's going to call. I don't know if anyone wants to. Let me find it. I got to... Actually, there it is. What's going on? Are we off here? There we go. You know what? I don't have the phone number with me. It's 616 something. Maybe we won't open the phone lines unless somebody can go back and find it. Let's see. Did I have it here? There it is. I've got it. 616-439-1158. We don't have commercials here, so some of this stuff is awkward and primitive. And I really should have done this in rehearsal, right? Where's that? Six 439. Dead air. There we go. So you're all kind of behind the curtain having fun with this. That's the way we do it here. It's not slick. It's barely professional. But that's the way we do it. Give us a call if you want to. If you have any other questions that we don't get to, we'd like to hear from you. Question number 4, Blee Blah from Rochester Hills, Michigan. And Blee Blah, thank you for giving me a phonetic pronunciation of your name. I've been mispronouncing it in recent weeks. Blee Blah says, are we hearing any rumblings on a new transfer portal edition for Michigan State football? Good question, but no, I've not heard anything. Question number 5 from Ty Garland from Oak Park, Illinois. Former Michigan State player, card-carrying Spartan dog himself. Ty Garland says, in your opinion, as far as running back goes this fall, is our Jordan Simmons and Elijah Collins afterthoughts? Is Davion Prim an afterthought, he asks. He also asks, are Berger and Broussard automatic shoo-ins? Will Harold Joyner be used in the Hayward role from last season? Good questions, and a lot of interesting talent there at the running back positions. We had a story on the running backs over at SpartanMag.com last week. It's a free story, about 1,500 words. We go over a lot of these guys with quotes from new running backs coach Ephraim Reed. Pretty good read, in my opinion, because of his quotes. But in June, when people are hungry for college football information, provided some good quotes there, and I was glad that he spent a little time for me at the camp in Big Rapids a few weeks ago. Those are quotes from a couple weeks ago. Appreciate Ephraim Reed sharing some thoughts with us for the masses to talk some running backs. You know, Berger, transfer from Wisconsin, was there for spring practice. Ephraim Reed said, hey, you know, he's a little bit out of shape when spring practice started, but by the end of spring practice, they were really happy with what Berger did, especially in the second scrimmage, which we didn't see in public, but Berger apparently was good that day. Broussard, the transfer from Colorado, was not on campus for spring practice, didn't enroll until after he finished the spring semester in Boulder, Colorado. He is around now and doing well with summer conditioning. You know, Ephraim Reed, I asked him about the depth chart, and he says there's nothing public. They've never had a public depth chart since Tucker's been head coach. It's the way they do it. But Ephraim Reed said he does have an idea of how it's going to shake out. And reading between the lines there and reading the poker face a little bit, it sounds like, yeah, the two transfers, Berger and Broussard, were brought here for a reason, to compete, but most likely to have the first crack at the 1-2 job at tailback. So are they automatic shoo-ins? No. They have to have great summers, and they have to be good in August camp. And the best ability is availability. They need to stay healthy. Broussard needs to show that he's durable. Berger needs to toe the line and battle. Looked pretty good so far. But they're backed up by proven guys. Elijah Collins over 970 yards as a freshman in 2019. Jordan Simmons in a smaller scale, led the team in rushing as a true freshman in 2020 during the COVID-shortened season. Only about 200 yards rushing, but it did lead the team. So those guys have done it. Elijah Collins has been dynamic at times early in his career. Simmons, maybe not dynamic, but he's got some experience. But Davion Prim was a guy in spring practice that really impressed the coaches, surprised me that they were surprised by him. I thought that was a guy that had, frankly, very little chance to battle into that top 4 or 5, 3 in the running back room. I thought Donovan Eaglin would have been ahead of him and stayed ahead of him. And Eaglin, I think, has some ability. He's transferred to SMU. But Prim was better in the spring. So how much better? I mean, I've not seen it with my own eyes, but people whose opinions I trust and value say it's a real deal. He looked good in the spring. So how he does, can he jump Collins and Simmons? Good question. They don't really tell us much about position battles during preseason camp. We've noticed over the last couple of years, they keep that a little bit quiet also. So we're just going to have to watch things. And hopefully they open up that practice. They opened up practice last year for Meet the Spartans, which used to be an autograph thing. Last year it wasn't autographs because the COVID thing was still going on. But I hope they do that again because it was that day when we saw that Cal Halliday was indeed repping with the ones. That was a surprise. And lo and behold, he did start at linebacker. And there were some other indications there that held true when they opened up against Northwestern last year. So I hope that they open up that practice again to the public. I thought that was a great event here at Spartan Stadium. It was like, August 20th or so. It was about 79 degrees, 6 p.m. It was great. It was a new thing, and I thought it was wonderful from a sports writing standpoint. We're able to get some good content out of that and relay it to those of you that don't live around here and unable to go to that thing. So Ty Garland also asks, I guess we covered those. Question number 6, Don from DeWitt. He says, hi, Pope. Have you heard any conversations with Coach Tom Izzo about how he feels about this year's team? And do you have any thoughts on their range as far as Big Ten finish? He also asks, do I agree with Don that the buzz about athletic director Alan Haller is good? And Don is bullish on where Alan Haller can take the program. And as Don says, where he can take the program, is it understated? And Don says he will be sipping some Evan Williams white label, best bourbon for the money anywhere. It's product placement there. Does Don have an NIL deal with Evan Williams? I don't know, but I just read it. So, Don, appreciate the question. Appreciate your support as always. Speaking of which, got to make sure I'm not... Oh, here we go. Oh, Don, I had a feeling. Right there. Don, straight. I see a super chat from Don in the tip jar tonight. Glad to have Don bellying up with that Evan Williams and real nice super chat, personal sponsorship tonight in the tip jar from Don. Really appreciate it. And no question, we don't have a question from Don there in the super chat area, but if I see a super chat, your question goes straight to the top. If I see it in time, I'm still trying to work out the kinks on that whole thing. But Don, Izzo, how does he feel about this year's team? Looks like we got a caller from Albany, Georgia. Let's see here.
Call from
Malcolm Jones.
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press...
All right, let's go out to Albany, Georgia. Malcolm Jones. Malcolm, welcome to Spartan Mag Live. How you doing, Malcolm? Malcolm split. We'll just keep moving along. So, Izzo, he's been asked a lot about only having 9 players, and he's kind of defended that, saying, "Man, when we had 12 or 13, It was hard to keep everybody happy because you're always playing defense on who's going to transfer and trying to keep people happy. 2 years ago, they were playing too many centers, so I think it hurt the development of all of them. Now they're going with a smaller cast of people, 9 or 10 scholarship players, and that's good that's okay as long as everybody stays healthy. They've had pretty decent health the last couple of years, but in years past, they've had trouble with injuries, as a lot of teams do. He's excited. He's optimistic. I don't know if he thinks it's, he likes to go into a season with feeling that he's got a chance to win a national championship. He's not going to say it, but I doubt he's thinking that now. Now he says every year they want to be knocking on the door for a Big Ten title and having a chance to make a run. And making a run in Michigan State parlance means Sweet 16 and beyond. They've done that a number of times. Can they do that? They need a lot of development. They need people to stay healthy. They need a center to come around. But I think that's possible. Don is asking, and that's all. That's what creates interest, right? If something is possible, yeah, it's Michigan State. It's basketball. It's possible. They need a lot of players to improve a lot in the offseason, which is what's happened in other years. I remember Draymond Green's senior year. He needed a bunch of guys to develop out of nowhere, and they did. Austin Thornton, Brandon Wood, Brandon Dawson came in as a freshman that year, right? So they needed that team was. Did not have high expectations in the preseason. Ended up being a number 1 seed. Went to the Sweet 16. I thought got messed up by travel problems, having to play a Thursday, Sunday turnaround, and actually a Friday, Sunday. No, a Sunday, Thursday, Sunday to Thursday. And I think Louisville had a Saturday to Thursday, and they stayed out west. And Louisville was good. Michigan State without Brandon Dawson, who had gotten injured the last game of the regular season. So they were a wheel short. All those things added up, and they were out of gas for that game. I mean, not initially, but when Louisville was really good. But in the middle 10 minutes of the second half, when it was really pushing and shoving time, Michigan State was not as fresh as they had been at other points in the season. A lot of people don't like to hear that, but it does happen. You get a Sunday, Thursday turnaround. At that point, you're playing on Sunday in Columbus. Every hour counts. There was they had delayed in the airport, got back to East Lansing late on Sunday, took a half day off on Monday, might have done a walkthrough, I don't know. Tuesday practiced and traveled. So they, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, they're right back on a plane traveling. Wednesday, open practice in Phoenix, and then Thursday they play the game against the team that, to their credit, Louisville played that token pressure, a lot of deflections to try to wear you down. So it ended up being a tough matchup for Michigan State. Draymond Green was very emotional after that loss, crying, and at that point, Draymond Green loved basketball, loved Michigan State, and nobody knew if that was going to be the biggest stage he would ever play on to that point. He thought he was a first-round draft choice, but no guarantees, right? Ends up becoming a second-round draft choice. He was bothered by being a second-round draft choice, thought he was better than that, set out to prove it, and you know the rest of the story. But that was an interesting night that night in Phoenix. But Michigan State basketball is going to be Michigan State basketball this year. They're going to be fine. They're going to have some ups and downs. But, A.J. Hoggard's working on that jump shot. That's going to make him a better player. Pierre Brooks has lost about, 15 pounds. Scored 40-plus last night in Moneyball. I know it's Moneyball. It's basically YMCA with no defense. But still getting some shots to fall, and he's getting off the court, getting off the floor a little bit better now. Can be a 3 or a 4. Tyson Walker needs to become more and more comfortable being the man, being the quarterback, hunting for his shot when appropriate, knowing that it's not a sin to do so. He's not stepping on any feet to get those shots. And we saw last year a few times the way he can go off when he gets hot and just starts to take over. More of that green light, hey, that's good weaponry. Jay Nakins needs to come around as a sophomore, very capable of doing that. The big man situation is a situation. Offensively, maybe not a big hole, but defensively, being able to hang with some of the big men of the Big Ten. And the Big Ten has more big men than any other conference in the country. It doesn't always turn into wins at the NCAA tournament, but in terms of 2 games a week, week in and week out during the winter, Big Ten, it can be a problem if you're a donut type of team with no strength in the middle. So Matty Sissoko, everybody knows it's got to come around. Just got something, sorry. And Cooper's got to come around. He's looked pretty good so far in the in Moneyball. And hold on, I'm just sending a message to somebody. Thought I might have something breaking here, but I don't think so. Hold on. Anyway, so all right, so getting back to the question, Don, we're talking basketball. Hey, Michigan State, they need some offseason player development. They're working on it. They're gonna be interesting and entertaining. Schedule's tough. It's gonna be Michigan State. They'll provide some moments, and by March, if everybody's healthy, you're not gonna want them in your bracket. I promise you. I can't tell you where all the strengths are gonna be at this point, but by next March, they'll be buttoned up. All right, he also says, do I agree with Don about the buzz about Alan Haller and where he can take the program and that it's understated in Don's terms? Understated, I would agree with that. Alan Haller, hey, he's a sharp guy. He's a very measured guy. That's a good word that I heard somebody describe him as, very measured. And he's also firm. You're not going to take advantage of this guy. Michigan State's had some athletic directors in the past that could get pushed around a little bit. Alan Haller is aware of that. And he's going to be firm about what he thinks about certain things. Saw him in the Detroit Economic Club about a month ago, and he kind of mentioned that the Big Ten is going to look a lot different next year. We all kind of figure that's coming since the NCAA is allowing conferences to just pick their football conference championship participants any way that they want to. Don't necessarily have to have two divisions anymore. The ACC announced a couple of days ago how they're going to do it. And we'll talk a little bit more about that here in a moment. And we can anticipate the Big Ten doing the same. And when that happens, some teams will be pushing for advantages, and other teams will be sacrificial lambs in some ways.
Call from
Nolan Schroeder.
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
All right, let's go out to Grand Rapids, Michigan with Nolan. How you doing? Welcome to SpartanMag Live, Nolan.
Hey, I'm doing well. How are you doing, Tom?
Great. You call from Grand Rapids?
Yeah, I'm originally from Grand Rapids. I live in Holland, Michigan now, so respectfully, I have to disagree with your Great Lakes assessment.
Okay. You're calling from Holland?
Yeah.
All right. Yep. Well, I respect your allegiance to the Great Lake Michigan out there for sure, and I appreciate you being aware of our Great Lakes power rankings. And how are things in Holland right now? Have you been there? Have you been hanging around there most weekends this year?
Yeah, it's beautiful. Tulip time was a few weekends ago, and it's a great city to visit in the summer. So it's all great out here.
All right. So what's going on? What do you want to talk about?
Yeah, I wanted to get your thoughts on the possibility of the new Big Ten scheduling structure like we saw from the ACC, and if you think that benefits MSU if they were to go to like a couple protected rivalries and then rotate the other schools every couple of years like we saw from the ACC.
Yeah, that question, thanks, Nolan, I appreciate that. That question came up here in the mailbag also, and let's see, specifically, can you repeat that again? What parts of that issue would you like to talk about?
Yeah, just curious on, I guess, who do you think their protected rivals for MSU would be?
All right.
And then how do you think that benefits MSU, or does it?
Yeah, and we were just talking about this with Alan Haller. I was just mentioning this when you called, that Alan Haller said at the Detroit Economic Club that the Big Ten's going to look a lot different in the near future, and we can all assume that's what he's talking about. And he said that Michigan State is going to have a place at the table when these decisions are made. In other words, that means we're not going to get pushed around. That's what I took that to mean. And in the past, has Michigan State been pushed around? I think here and there that has happened. And, you look at what happened in the ACC, and they announced a 3-3-5 or something like that, a 4-year deal, where it's a 4-year schedule, a 4-year plan. Every program has basically 3 dance partners, 3 protected opponents that they play every single year. And it looked to me like they divided it up into heavyweights, middleweights, and lightweights. Even though in the ACC there's a lot of parity, and from year to year you can argue as to who the lightweights are and who the middleweights are. Basically, the heavyweights are Clemson, Miami, and Florida State. Even though Florida State's not been very good, and Miami was sub 500 last year, those are the 3 teams with with the most resources and the most history, right? And no teams played 2 of those 3 except for Florida State. Florida State's 3 protected teams, 2 of them. One was Clemson, one was Miami. So Florida State kind of got screwed in that deal, in my opinion. I mean, we don't know if Miami's going to be good right away under Cristobal, but I'd rather not have Miami and Clemson as 2 of my 3 protected games. But basically, it looked to me like they tried to keep everything even. They don't want to load up 3 heavyweights for one particular team. Now, the Big Ten with their scheduling over the years, you can say, we're trying to be fair, and it's random, and we use a computer, which I don't even think they say that anymore. I mean, you look at it, Nebraska, remember when Nebraska was squawking about maybe wanting to leave the Big Ten during the COVID situation, and then when the new schedule came out or whatever, they really got slammed. I can't remember what it was, but they got a short end of that stick. And when Nebraska first entered the conference in year number 1, their first game, I think, was at Wisconsin and at Ohio State. I mean, that's back when Ohio State and Wisconsin were really good. Maybe one of those might have been a home game, but those were the crossover games for them. They got a tough stick on that, and that's not random, in my opinion. I mean, and if you believe, which I do, that Nebraska got the short end of the stick on purpose, then I also believe that it might be possible that others can get the soft end of the stick. And we've seen that over the years. Now, it's a new commissioner. I'm not sure he is as inclined to help some of the old traditional flagships as much as Delaney used to be. Okay? So I think Alan Haller has his antennae up, but I do think that the climate is a little bit different now. As Alan Haller said at the Big Ten at the Detroit Economic Club, he said based on Michigan State's history, not only over the long term, but Michigan State's success in recent years, Michigan State has earned a seat at the table. And what he's insinuating is how good you have been gives you more of a voice at that table. In other words, Ohio State and Michigan are going to have more of a voice than Northwestern and Rutgers. And you know what? Some people might say, well, they should. But anyway, Michigan State is going to be in the big boy table also. That's what Alan Haller insinuated. And whether or not that turns out to be true, he is fighting to be there to make sure that Michigan State's interests are protected and forwarded. Now, in the past, when the Big Ten was divided up into 2 different divisions, there was a lot of talk about, okay, which teams go on which divisions, how many superpowers over here, how many powers over there, who is your protected crossover game, who's your protected rival or whatever. I know Mark Hollis wanted Northwestern as a protected every season rival in the other division, or words to that effect. And the Big Ten did not grant him that. And I agree with Hollis that Northwestern was an attractive dance partner for Michigan State on a year in, year out basis for a lot of reasons. Now, Northwestern has been very good at football periodically over the years, but we know that over the course of time, Northwestern may not have all the resources that other schools do, even though their football facility is beautiful right now. But year in and year out, if you have a choice of playing Northwestern every single year or Penn State every single year, take Northwestern. You're going to win more of those games, firstly. Secondly, it's a good road trip for Michigan State fans. There's a lot of Michigan State fans in Chicago. They turn out for that game. And thirdly, when you get a lot of Michigan State fans that go to that game, it's an opportunity for Alan Haller and the fundraisers to get a lot of some of those bigwig donors in the same room, mobilize them for a tailgate, try to pass the hat and, shove them toward, changing their donation levels, those type of things. Those all mean something. As a matter of fact, I saw Alan Haller at Northwestern last year just before kickoff in the tailgate section. He was coming through. He had just gotten hired. He was taking a lot of handshakes, a lot of pats on the back. He was out there observing the tailgating and so forth. But if you're playing Northwestern every single year and a road game every other year, that can be advantageous. And fourthly, it's a Big Ten traditional opponent. So if you're playing Northwestern every single year instead of Rutgers or instead of Maryland, it just has a little bit more of a Big Ten feel to it. For all those reasons, I can understand what Hollis was aiming toward back then, and I think that would be a favorable one for Michigan State. Whether or not Alan Haller agrees with that now, I'm not sure. Whether or not there are good or poor chances of that happening here in the short term, I'm not sure. But I kind of like Northwestern on the schedule. What do you think, Nolan?
Yeah, I agree. I think obviously Michigan would be protected.
Yes.
And then part of me thinks it would be Penn State, and then maybe throwing in, an Indiana since it's a trophy game or something like that.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Indiana can have good years or down years, so that would be, not sure what to make of that. But do you have the schedule for this year in front of you? I wanted to get your take on, or maybe it's too early, on what you're thinking for floor and ceiling kind of. I know, to me, if you get through October this year, it's reasonable to have at most maybe 2 losses, and then the beginning of November looks like some easy games until that end game with Penn State. So I think 9-3 seems reasonable within the expectations. I know there's lots of money lines on 7.5, but I think we go over that again this year.
7.5 is the over under.
Yeah, that's what I've been seeing.
Well, last year when they were playing Northwestern to begin with, I thought that game was so crucial. I mean, none of us knew Michigan State was going to be that strong. I thought that was a massive swing game. Nobody knew what Northwestern was going to be. They're pretty good the previous year, but Northwestern kind of goes up and down with tremendous peaks and valleys.
Definitely.
But that game, I thought that was huge, and they were explosive and they were excellent that day. So this year you got Western Michigan and Akron. The game at Washington. Washington's down a little bit right now, new coach and so forth. It's hard to win on the West Coast. Big Ten teams.
They got Michael Penix. You remember him from Indiana? He's their quarterback now.
Yes, that is certainly interesting how he fits in there. And, Big Ten teams have had trouble out on the West Coast, so Michigan State has to get over that hump. It's not going to be played in 100-degree heat at midnight like that game at Arizona a few years ago, but Michigan State should go out and beat Washington, right? That's where Michigan State should be right now, right? Is that too much to expect?
No, I definitely agree with that, especially with Washington's current state, new coach, a lot of roster turnover. I think maybe in a few years they have something different, but for right now, I'd say we should definitely win that game.
And so if Michigan State's 3-0, then they would be coming back home to play to play the Gophers. Classic, nice Big Ten game, September 24th. Starting to get a little nip in the air, maybe. I think that could be a tasty television game. I think you could. I don't know what Minnesota's schedule is. A lot of times when I look at these schedules, I look to see who did they play the week before, and I've not gotten into that.
Mm-hmm.
Conendike and I usually get into that when we drive to the Big Ten Media Days in Chicago or wherever it is. Haven't done that yet, but that game with Minnesota was good last year. I mean, statistically and everything, just they're buttoned up. They've got their crap together. Somewhat physical, and they're a difficult team to beat at home. Solid chance to go 4-0. Then you go at Maryland. Maryland was a respectable team last year. Michigan State beat them, didn't blow them out, but Maryland was okay. I've not looked to see who they have coming back and all those things, but can Michigan State expect to beat Maryland and be 5-0? I think so. And then now it's easy to say that
Ohio State plays Wisconsin before we get Ohio State, so we'll know more about Ohio State from that Wisconsin game.
Yeah, and I don't think Michigan State's ready to drag race with Ohio State still.
I agree.
Ohio State beating Michigan State so badly last year can help a little bit this year, in that Ohio State has a bunch of 21-year-old athletes like everybody else, and their coaching staff convincing their players to respect Michigan State might be difficult, as badly as they beat Michigan State last year. You're playing in East Lansing. Those are positives, but still, I mean, it's Ohio State. 5-1, Wisconsin homecoming. These are the swing games. Minnesota at home is kind of a swing game. At Washington, homecoming against Wisconsin in East Lansing, October 15th.
Mm-hmm.
So then you go at Michigan, at Illinois, then Rutgers and Indiana and Penn State. A lot of parity down the stretch. We can go over these things, and we'll do it more as the summer drags on. But
Sure.
in some regards, I'm looking at the schedule piece by piece for the first time. So I'd rather rehearse my thoughts a little bit more. But you've looked at it. What do you think? What do you think? I agree with you that 7.5 wins seems a little low.
Yeah, and I'm not sure, where the national pundits are thinking if they're saying, oh, last year was just the Kenneth Walker show, we're losing him. The offensive line's still not that great. You got a couple of hard games there in the middle, but I'm not sure what the reasoning is. To me, this looks like at least 8, but we'll see.
All right. Keep everything buttoned down there in Holland, Michigan. Anything else you want to throw in there, Nolan?
No, I just appreciate all the good work you guys do over at SpartanMag, and I would definitely recommend it to everybody I know who bleeds green and white. So thanks for the good work, huh?
Hey, appreciate you. Thanks a lot, Nolan. Thanks for calling in. Thanks for spending some of your Wednesday night with us here at SpartanMag.com, and thank you for being a SpartanMag.com subscriber. Take care, Nolan. Thanks a lot, and have a good, safe summer out there in the beautiful town of Holland, Michigan, out on Lake Michigan. Now, calls like that can help Lake Michigan improve a little bit in the Great Lakes power poll. Yes, it can. Let's go over here to the comments area before we head back to the mailbag. Let's see, what do we have? Actually got another call coming in, looks like.
Call from. To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail,
I'm going to go with it
press
because I
2.
think it's Malcolm. Hey, Malcolm, is that you in Albany, Georgia?
Yes, sir. How you doing?
Hey, thanks for waiting for the phone line to clear up a little bit. Malcolm, are you in Albany, Georgia? Albany?
I'm in Albany, Georgia.
What's going on in Albany, Georgia? How you doing tonight, Malcolm, and welcome to the show.
I am doing real good. I'm the freshman Malcolm Jones' daddy from Leesburg, Georgia.
Okay.
And I was calling to see, we got the guys from the South. I want to know how would they help Michigan State and in the secondary, or the guys from Warner Robins and all that.
Now, which one specifically? The incoming freshman?
The incoming freshmen from the South Georgia.
All right. I wanted to talk to Harlan Barnett about the defensive backs when I saw the coaches a couple of weeks ago at a camp, and I didn't get a chance to talk to him. I spoke with some of the other assistant coaches, and I wanted to get, a lot of times you can get some real good off-season information from coaches when you see them at camps. And I didn't get anything new from him about it, but Malcolm Jones. You tell me what Malcolm thinks so far.
I have talked to him, and he's loving the camp. He's loving his teammates. I mean, there's something different to him that we talk all the time. But he talks about Mel Tucker, the coaching staff. He said it's a wonderful staff.
Yeah, I think they're all fired up, and Ade Willie from Bradenton, Florida, was here for the spring scrimmage, and he was out there learning. Caleb Coley also, Warner Robins, Georgia. You can't expect those guys to hit the field and know everything right away, right? So they're going up against Jay Reed and some of these guys, and they're learning as they go. 15 practices in, learning as they go. Now, I talked a little bit over at our message board about Dylan Tatum, kid from West Bloomfield, who I thought was a real good running back, skill position, offensive player in high school, wanted to focus more on defense as a senior in high school, moved to safety, and watching, I saw him a little bit last fall, and he has a lot to learn. He's got good, quick feet, but I still think he's more natural as an offensive player. I think he has further to go in terms of learning the physicality of playing defense at a high level. I know he's a 4-star recruit, but I think his learning curve is going to be a little longer than others. Jaden Mangum, mid-year enrollee from the Detroit area, about 6'2.5", 190, earned some academic awards here recently. What was he? He was like academic player of the week 2 or 3 weeks ago. And he looked good in the scrimmage, mid-year enrollee, a lean, angular guy, hits well for a thin guy. I know that Xavier Henderson's impressed with him. Xavier being an upperclassman, likes the way Jaden Mangum looks as a safety. Now, those other corners, coaches always say that the players that have the best chance to get on the field as freshmen are the players that are the furthest from the football. You've probably heard that before. Your wide receivers, your corners, your safeties, tailbacks. As you get closer to the ball, it necessitates more experience, more of that man strength, right? So the corners, Michigan State had some transfers coming in and had 3 or 4 or 5 different starters at the corner position last year. All of them had some good moments. All of them had some difficult moments. So they're learning as they go. Now Mel Tucker and Harlan Barnett are in charge of those defensive backs. They got new defensive backfield coaching situation now with Tillman having moved on to Georgia Tech. Tucker taking on more of that role with the corners. I think you're going to see in the secondary as a whole, they're going to be on the same page better than last year. I call it same pageness. I guarantee with Tucker and Barnett handling it back there and a little more experience, there's going to be better collective, same pageness in the defensive backfield. How many of those true freshmen are going to work into there? Hard to say. Chuck Brantley last year, freshman from Florida, got in there, started a game, made the game-saving interception against Michigan. Just a little dude at about 160 pounds. He's got to get stronger. Everybody knows that, but he hits pretty hard for a little dude and got on the field, made some big plays, and then was out for the rest of the season with an injury at Purdue. But he got on the field as a true freshman. So the door's open. If you get in, if you're good enough, you can get a shot at it. But what they're doing right now at Michigan State is they're stacking in some good talent there at the defensive backfield positions, and they're going down to Georgia a lot to try to fortify that position in the defensive backfield. And I think that's a healthy direction for Michigan State football. What do you think, Malcolm?
I love it. I done went to Lee County and Warner Robins, the corner they got from Warner Robins. That boy stick.
Caleb.
Then you got the boy from Buford. He has a stick. I mean, they played, they play that ball hard. I watched them play. They play the ball hard. Plus, my son, he plays the ball hard too.
Talking about Malik Spencer, the safety from Buford, Georgia, had a real nice season for a very good team. He's got some physicality to him. And Georgia Tech tried to come in late and steal him. But, yeah, he's got some thickness to him. And, you're talking about Caleb Coley from Warner Robins, Georgia. I tell you what, Mel Tucker really believes – everybody believes in the talent of the state of Georgia, but especially the defensive backfield. They won't be the last players that come out of Georgia that Michigan State's going to be going after, especially in the defensive backfield.
Well, in the South Georgia, they really don't look at players too much in the South. Most of everything stops in like Atlanta, Georgia. There has not been really a lot of recruiting D1 schools down here in the South Georgia, but there's a lot of talent in South Georgia.
Where is Dry Branch? Where's Dry Branch located? Dry Branch, Georgia.
Yeah, it's up there in the Atlanta area.
Okay, I'm calling it up right now because that's where Daquez Denard was from, and he was. It looks like it's just east of Macon. No, it's northeast of Warner Robins. It's
Robins.
It's near Warner Robins. I mean, it's not way down there, but it's not. So when you talk about South Georgia, you're talking about down toward Valdosta, or what areas are you talking about? Where it's?
I'm talking about Lee County, Chris County. Where you consider Perry, Georgia, like South. Anything that's under Atlanta will be considered the South.
Okay. So Dry Branch is South Georgia then, because it's
South Georgia.
It's
they have a lot of talent. Like Buford, that's Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
They always have good players. You have Lee County. They put out I think they put out 71 players this year in Lee County.
How many?
7 D1 players. I mean, it's really stacked in Lee County, but Lee County is the only school that's really in the South that, most of the kids get to go somewhere. Everywhere else, they don't get looked at in the South. And I'm happy that Mel Tucker came down here and got some of these guys that's down here in recognition. Then that means it might bring more coaches down here to look at some of these players too.
Well, I'm glad you're happy because a lot of the Michigan State fans, all the Michigan State fans that are listening right now, they sure are happy. Mel Tucker's been down there, as you know, coached for Alabama, coached for the University of Georgia, defensive coordinator for Kirby Smart for the Bulldogs. He's recruited those areas. He's recruited Georgia. He knows what's out there, and he knows he has strong relationships with the high school coaches down there. And when he took the job, he felt that Georgia could be an important asset for Michigan State recruiting. And he went down there not shying away from recruiting against Alabama, recruiting against Georgia, recruiting against Oregon, Florida, Auburn, and everybody else down there for some of the best. And yeah,
Mel Tucker came to Georgia and got players. When he got players, that's when Nick Saban and Kobe Smart, they started coming after he got players that's from down here because they weren't recruiting. Alabama wasn't recruiting from Georgia in the South Georgia. When Mel Tucker came and he started signing players from Georgia, that's when all the big schools start coming down looking at him. So this year when he came down and signed a lot of them, that's when a lot of teams started coming looking because Kirby Smart wasn't coming to the South. Nick Saban wasn't coming to Georgia to look at players. They wasn't looking for like 3 and 4 star, 2 and 3 stars. They were looking for 4 and 5 stars. And it's hard to get in the South to get 4 or 5 stars. The most they're gonna rate them is if you can get a 4. But you got, the ratings I don't think is really good on some of these players because some of these players are actually 4 or 5 stars, but they just don't get the limelight in the South.
Yeah, I was not aware of that Alabama had not recruited down there very much. As you know, Alabama's had great rosters, but it's interesting that you think that they've kind of woken up to the South Georgia a little bit more since Tucker's been down there. I will say this. I was going to say something about Darqueze Dennard. He was an interesting recruit back in around 2010, 2009 for Michigan State's previous head coach, Mark D'Antonio. Michigan State was down there recruiting a wide receiver. I think it was Keith Mumphrey, who was kind of a borderline 4-star wide receiver recruit out of Georgia. And Michigan State's recruiters noticed they were playing against a kid named Darqueze Dennard from Dry Branch, Georgia, down there near Lee County. And nobody was on him. He was a 0-star. I think Troy State was the only school really looking at him. And Michigan State's like, how come nobody's recruiting this guy? What's wrong with him? Looked into him. Excellent citizen, excellent student. Looked great, started recruiting him. We'll take this guy. Ends up being a 2-star. 4 years later, he wins the Jim Thorpe Award, and he's a first-round draft choice. So that's a happy story for Michigan State fans and a happy story for Darqueze Dennard, too. He still comes around from time to time, but it's exactly what you're talking about, a guy that was kind of falling through the cracks a little bit in South Georgia. Ended up being one of the greatest players in Michigan State recent history.
Yes. I have a friend. I went to school because I'm not from Georgia. I done moved back to Georgia. I have a friend that lived in New York. He actually played with Mel Tucker. So he advised me, that my son is in good hands with Mel Tucker. He has played 4 years at Wisconsin with Mel Tucker. He played safety with Mel Tucker. So he advised me that was the best choice for my son to go because Mel Tucker will know how to handle, the defensive back. That's what he's, a defensive back. He plays offense too. I mean, he can do things with that ball if he can get it. But his thing is the defense.
Tell you what, I hear things like that about Mel Tucker all the time in terms of, he checks a lot of boxes. The resume is outstanding, being a coordinator for Kirby Smart, being a defensive backs coach twice for Nick Saban, interim head coach in the National Football League, defensive coordinator, National Football League. One of the top recruiters in the country when he was at Georgia. People that have worked with him, people that have, players that have played for him. When he was at Colorado for a year, there were players that he had coached at University of Georgia that when they were deciding whether or not to join the NFL draft, they called up Mel Tucker at Colorado to seek out his expertise. Mel, what do you think? Can you call some of your general managers that in the National Football League? Should I go in the draft or should I stay? They trusted Mel Tucker in Boulder, Colorado to help them with some very important decisions for their futures. So that's former players of his. And you can see, so Mel Tucker, he's got the resume. He's old school and he's new school. You know what I mean? He's got that old school toughness, that he's learned under Barry Alvarez and Nick Saban and how it can win in that regard. That old school Cleveland. He's got old school Cleveland in him, but he also has some of that new age style and sizzle too. And I tell you what, the pedal is always down. The guy is always going full throttle. And he's an interesting guy right now in the college football landscape. I'll tell you that. People are noticing.
Well, in South Georgia, a lot of folks they're not Michigan State fans. A lot of them is like Florida, Alabama,
sure,
Florida State. But since my son signed with Michigan State, I have more Michigan State people now. Oh, we need to go up to Lansing, Michigan. So I'm gonna get a busload of folks, and we're gonna be heading up there this year to watch a lot of games. But the best game I want to see is Ohio State. I believe they got the team to beat Ohio State this year. I believe they do.
Well, Ohio State, over the course of time, has had a lot of success against everybody in the Big Ten. But Michigan State historically has tripped up Ohio State in some big key seasons. If you go back and look in the history books, Michigan State has been a thorn in the side sometimes for Ohio State. And Ohio State's a great program. They win a lot of games. And last year they were loaded, especially on offense. Michigan State had a lot of trouble with them last year. But they're the standard, and that's what Michigan State, they're coming for them. Everybody's coming for Ohio State. But Michigan State's recruiting a little differently these days. We'll see what happens. Now, as far as other, go ahead.
If we can stop the receivers, it'll be a better game. To me, that's what we have to. The secondary have to stop the receivers.
Yeah, and that's. You look at Ohio State's wide receivers. Two of them were drafted in the top 20 of the first round. Those guys could fly. And Smith and Jigba was a sophomore. Otherwise, he would have been drafted in the top half of the first round also. And you saw those guys in the Rose Bowl against Utah. It was just a track meet. They were just running by those guys. So Ohio State's receivers were special. I know there's a lot of speed down in the SEC, but Ohio State's wide receivers could have stacked up with anybody last year. Michigan State certainly struggled with those one-on-ones last year. That's why they need to try to reload there at the corner position and try to win some of those drag races. Now, as far as Georgia recruiting goes, Michigan State had a visit a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I think, from Jelani Thurman, big tight end from Fairburn, Georgia. That's outside of Atlanta, not quite South Georgia. Big guy, basketball playing guy. Alabama's in there, Ohio State's in there with him. But that's another Georgia guy that Michigan State has shown a lot of interest in. They've had visits from several Georgia guys, including some offensive linemen. Madden Sanker from Douglasville, I think he's going to end up going to Louisville, and Shamarad Umarov from Alpharetta, and they're busy down there. Colton Hood is a defensive back that they're keeping tabs on as Michigan State continues to recruit defensive backs in the state of Georgia. Anything else, Malcolm? So your son is. So when did he arrive at Michigan State?
He arrived the 28th of May, because he graduated 27th. So he was there the next day after graduation.
So tell me, was he pretty fired up to head north for college? Was he pretty fired up, anxious, and eager? What was he like?
He's real eager. I talked to him. He's real eager. He's ready to put on the pads. He's ready to hit. He's strictly just football.
All right. So summer conditioning began in earnest for Michigan State on May 31st, right around Memorial Day weekend, and they hit the ground running with conditioning and everything. What has he told you about how difficult the conditioning is, and how's he liking it so far? I know it's demanding, and it can be culture shock for incoming freshmen sometimes. But what has he thought about the conditioning? I think they just finished their fourth week. Their 4 week. They just finished their fourth week of summer conditioning. What's he said about it so far?
He has put on 10 pounds in them 4 weeks
while working out. Working out and adding weight.
He's eating different, and he's working out and all that. He told me, Dad, I done put on 10 pounds. So that's going to, he's physical. So, that's what Mel Tucker was looking for, physical corners. See, you got to be, if you physical with some of the receivers, if you really notice, none of the Ohio State wide receivers never really took a hit. If you ever noticed, they're catching the ball on the slant.
Yeah, they couldn't catch him. Yeah. So physical, the
So-
line of scrimmage, offhand jam, turn your hips, get help from the safety, all that stuff. And it helps to have a big corner. And Malcolm, he was listed at 6'1", 190. So how accurate was that when he signed 6'1", 190? How big and tall is he right now?
He's at he told me he's at 201. So he's put on like 10 pounds.
Is he 6'1"?
Yeah, he's 6'1".
And he's
I believe he's 6'2".
6'2", and he's
Because
playing.
I'm 6'3", and I'm 215. So he's about 6'2".
And he's playing. He's training to be a corner at Michigan State. Still.
Yeah, Mel Tucker has, because he was going to go in as a safety, but Mel Tucker said he was going to try him at corner. He was going to start him at corner.
Yeah, if you're 6'2", 200, and you can hang at quarter, that's a good commodity to have. So, 200 pounds, that's a big corner. If he can stick there, that's good for business. That's good for business.
I asked him, can he play it? He told me, Dad, I can play anything on the field. Wherever they put me, I can play anything. So
right. He's added some weight. You know, part of that is, you know, we've talked about it here on the podcast. Michigan State, you know, they revamped their nutrition system. Amber Reinstein is the lady that puts it together. Tucker's a big believer in all those things. And, you know, you hear about those things. Okay, is that just recruiting pitch stuff? Is that just, you know, something for the public? But no, I mean, they've taken the science, you know, pretty deep on this. And Novak, the new strength coach, same thing. I mean, it's high-end, high-tech. And like, okay, that all sounds well and good. But the guy that I look at is Kenneth Walker last year, the running back. He was pretty good at Wake Forest. He came to Michigan State, and after all the nutrition and all the strength conditioning program, whatever it was, he went from good to great in 1 year. And yeah, Kenneth Walker is responsible for putting in the work and becoming the player that he became. But that made me sit back and say, man, this nutrition and strength and conditioning thing going on at Michigan State that Tucker talks about being state of the art, I think there's something to that. You know, I mean, and if you do that with an entire roster, that's how you go from 2-5 to 11-2, partly. Now, other programs are going to be trying to do the same thing, of course, but in order to stay a step ahead, you got to be a step ahead. And I think in a lot of ways, Michigan State is kind of a step ahead on a lot of these things, and they need to be with who they're trying to compete against. I think it's working.
Yes, sir.
And your son, and your son's working hard every day, and he's added 10 pounds while doing it. That's
good. And his chaperone was, when he came to visit Michigan State, Walker was his chaperone while he was there for the visit. So, really? I mean, my son learned a lot from him. He done taught my son a lot.
Really? You know, Kenneth Walker is a soft-spoken young man. You know, in the press conferences, he's kind of understated. But he opened up to your son a little bit. Do you remember some of the things that he told him during the visit?
My son never told me what they talked about on the visit, but they was together. He was like K9. I never knew who K9 was until I actually went back and watched some of the Michigan State stuff last year. Yeah. And I see how he ran the ball.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah. But he told my son he can learn a lot through Mel Tucker, because Mel Tucker is that father figure.
Yeah. It's no joke. Mel Tucker is well respected by these guys. He really is. And Mel Tucker, it's something that I said about 11 or 12 months ago, I think right around the start of the season last year, just as more and more positive things were happening. I was telling the Michigan State fans, I don't say this about everybody. I don't blow out a bunch of hyperbole about this stuff, but I'm like, Mel Tucker might be the total package as a head coach. He might be the total package. Every single box is impressive. And it's a hard gig. You know, being a college football head coach is a difficult gig because half of them lose every week, you know. And, you know, I'm not guaranteeing he's in the Hall of Fame or anything, but it's going pretty strong right now, and it's intriguing to watch because there's something going on at Michigan State, and it's caught a lot of people's eye, including yours down there in South Georgia.
It's catching a lot of eyes in South Georgia. A lot of schools, it's talking about Mel Tucker coming, because now you got folks that's talking about, well, we need to get him back down here and get some more of these players down here. I said, just he said he's going to be back. So, I mean, if he say he's going to come back, he's going to come back.
Oh, I guarantee you. Yeah, Georgia.
You look over the last couple of weeks, he's got a lot of 4 stars, 5 stars that's coming there. So, you know, once you start getting players to go there, and then you get players that speak, you know, what kind of guy he is, and see, that's where you want to send your kid. You want to send your kid with somebody that's going to be responsible, you know, teaching the game. And see, I watched the tape with Mel Tucker. He was a hard hitter when he played safety. I done went back and watched a lot of his film. I watched him at Wisconsin. He was a man that go after the ball. He played good. So I feel happy that my son is playing for him.
You know, that's what Kirk Herbstreit said the same thing. Herbstreit was here in town this week for a fundraising golf function, and he and Tucker were on the podium together. And Herbstreit was at Ohio State when Tucker was playing at Wisconsin. They were on the field together. And Herbstreit said the same thing you said about him. Hard-hitting guy, straightforward guy. But Herbstreit's known him for a long time, and he came up and supported the event. And it was interesting to watch those two interact. I mean, Tuck's coming, you know it, right? I mean, hey, I'm a reporter, and I got a Michigan State backdrop here, but I don't really wear like Michigan State green and white shirts and pom-poms and all that stuff. I try to be an objective reporter to try to level with the readers and the audience and the people listening right now, and I hope that they appreciate that. I try to have credibility in that regard. But the people that are listening and commenting right now are all excited about you and your son and Michigan State football and all those things. I can't quite come out and say those things. I'm supposed to be an objective reporter, but I guarantee you these fans are excited about you being on the show tonight, calling in.
Yes, sir. I done bought over $5,000 worth of stuff already from Michigan State.
You've done what now? You've ordered?
I bought T-shirts. I got T-shirts. I got jerseys. I just got everything. I got pictures of Mel Tucker and my son when they took pictures. I got them in the courthouse. I mean, I just got them everywhere in the hometown. I'm just, that's just supporting Michigan State and Camilla, Georgia.
That's great, and it's a nice look, isn't it? It's a nice shade of green, isn't it?
Yes,
really
and everybody talk about you got your son. I got him in the barbershop with Mel Tucker. I got him because you got another one that's there. You got the Carter boy. He's from Albany too.
Yeah,
he's from Leesburg too. So I mean, you got a lot of guys that's from the South. So I'm gonna have to support my guys from the South.
Michigan State will be happy that you are. Hey, Malcolm's just getting started, and we certainly wish Malcolm Jones a great experience, a great college experience. And Mel Tucker, it's a page out of the Nick Saban book, but he really is seriously, honestly interested in helping these guys off the field and for life after football, business aspect, entrepreneurial, mentoring. A lot of things. Mel Tucker's serious about it, and I know everybody watching right now is hoping Malcolm Jones has a real good experience as a student in college first and foremost, and hopefully he can tackle some of his dreams on the football field too. I think I speak for them confidently that they all feel that way, Malcolm.
Yes, and Malcolm got a baby brother. He is 6'3", 330. He played offensive tackle. He's just in 11th grade.
11th grade, 6'3", 330.
Yeah.
You said 6'3", 330?
Yeah.
Did he go?
Yeah.
Did he go to any camps this summer, like college camps?
No, he hasn't gone to no camps. I mean, he's playing at America's high school. He made at America's. He has got nobody has looked at him. He has no offers or nothing yet. He just went to the 11th grade.
He just finished 11th grade.
No, he's just going to the 11th grade.
Okay, just finished 10th
He just
grade.
left the camp.
Okay. Next summer, he needs to go to camps, whether it be Valdosta State, Georgia Tech, Michigan State. He needs to go to summer camps to get in front of some of those coaches so they can see him at some of those camps if they're not already calling him. Are they calling him right now? Or is he?
No, nobody's looking. No, nobody's looking at him at all.
The best way to do it is to go to camps.
Go to camp?
Yeah. So, those colleges in your area, go check them out and see if they've got any camps the rest of the summer. I'm not here to help anybody recruit, but anytime I can help a family with a young man, I'm always for it. I'd call up Georgia Tech and say, hey, you got any camps this summer? It's still going on. I'd call Valdosta State.
Yeah.
I'd call Georgia State. And, you can call, the big dogs too. But a lot of times the camps at the smaller schools can get your foot in the door a little bit to begin with. That's my experience.
Yeah. But we had with the the COVID pandemic, they stopped a lot of camps. So
I
I
think
don't know.
there's a lot now. They're back on now. The problem is,
okay.
as you know, most of them were in June, but there might be some schools that still have some in July.
Okay.
Go on Twitter, reach out to coaches for those schools, and that'd be my advice on that.
Okay.
Good luck.
But
to you.
I will keep on my SpartanMag, so I
right.
keep up with it. I subscribed, and I looked up and called in and got on tonight.
All right. Appreciate you. We had you on before, but then we dropped the call. Then we had another caller. So
Yeah.
when you called back in, we had to drop you to the bottom. But, hey, Malcolm, thanks a lot for calling. It's great to hear from you. And I hope you have a great day and a great rest of the week and a great weekend. And keep smiling down there.
Yeah, we're gonna keep smiling. We're gonna get Mel Tucker back down here. He can get some more discounts down here.
Oh, he's gonna be down there. I guarantee it. I guarantee he's gonna be back down there. I've heard him say it. That's a part of the plan. That's a big part of the plan. The talent in Georgia. He knows it. They know him. It could be a pretty good marriage. All right, Malcolm. Thanks for calling in. Really, really appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
All right, take care. There he goes, Malcolm from Georgia, the father of Michigan State freshman Malcolm Jones. Interesting. You never know who's going to call up the show, right? Great to hear from him. He's fired up. Brought a lot of life to the podcast tonight. We certainly appreciate it. All right, let's go over here to the comments and the comments area. See what we got. It's already 10:30 at night. I need to get through these kind of quickly. What do we have here? All right, we got Brian Bemis, got Old Tug from Ludington. I'm going to ice the quarter ball screen tonight. Okay. So he's the big man in the middle. Does it come out high and ice that thing? Nice. Will Stallworth. Hey, Comp, let's talk about football. Been doing that, Will. Thanks for your excitement and support. Kirk Baldwin says good evening. Steve Meyer says best wishes and go green from McKinney, Texas. Will Stallworth says go green. Mark Carrier says checking in from south of the border, Sylvania, Ohio. I was down in Sylvania, Ohio 2 weeks ago. Findlay, Ohio. Liberty's at Liberty Benton for baseball tournament down there. I was between games, we went over to, was it Culver's? And coming out, there's a guy with a Michigan State shirt on. And I don't do this, but when you're in Ohio, he had a Michigan State shirt on. I said, go green. He just walked right by me, didn't say anything. I don't go around saying go green. It's not my thing. But when you're out of state and you see that, and figured I'd do it. Didn't get anything. Marlon Milano says go green, go white. Connor Theo says itching for that first pre-snap read of the season. Comp, it's worth every cent for someone to actually analyze the game. Thanks, Connor. The pre-snap read is what we write about. It's a pre-snap read is what it is. Night before the game, put it together Friday around 5 o'clock. I try to get it done earlier than that, but it's always a struggle. Countdown to do that for Michigan State versus Western Michigan coming up in several weeks. Thank you for reading that over the years. Marlon Milano says, I finally get to be on live. Sounds like Marlon has watched it via recording in the past. Great to have you here live. Matthew Latham says, go green. Matthew Latham is our Michigan State hockey expert. He oversees the MUN Michigan State hockey message board. Michigan State had a hockey commitment from a big 6'7" defenseman from Sweden yesterday. Talked to my guy Gerbert about that a little bit. Says he plays in a good league. Drafted by the New Jersey Devils. And the feeling is that the Devils, the Devils draft you, NHL team drafts you, and you've not picked a college yet. Sometimes the team that drafts you has an impact on your decision to go to college. Who are you going to go play for? Completely backward from football and basketball. But if you're 18, you're eligible for the NHL draft. Sometimes those guys get drafted, and then they go to college. Sometimes they have input on where they go to college. So Adam Nightingale, the new Michigan State hockey coach, seems to have gotten an endorsement from New Jersey Devils coaching and player development people on that one. Interesting yesterday. And we also have the former guitar player and keyboard player of Surrender Dorothy, one of the top 25 East Lansing bands of all time, George Page from Surrender Dorothy, and he says, hey, Comp, working on a Surrender Dorothy reunion at Rick's January, February 2023. I'll keep you posted. January, February works better for me than the fall. We've talked about this before. You mentioned Friday or Saturday in the fall. Friday and Saturday in the fall, I'm pretty darn busy. I will say this. A bunch of my idiot friends around my age last February had something called 50 Fest because some of us were turning 50. For me, that was a few laps ago. But with my idiot friends, and they range from all places and all corners, Chicago, Atlanta, all kinds of places. They come in, Minnesota. And they're not idiots. I'm the idiot. They're not idiots. They're beautiful people. But there's some talk about that gathering not being just an every 10-year thing, because how many... I don't want to finish that statement. Instead of 50 Fest, I'm looking to have it just be Feb Fest every single February. And if you can coordinate Surrender Dorothy reunion with Feb Fest, if you give us a date, we're going to make Feb Fest happen around the Surrender Dorothy reunion weekend. So you got to tell me, George Page. I know back in the old days, Surrender Dorothy had 2 lead singers, 2 females. One was a blonde, one was a brunette. The blonde left, and then they just became Dorothy with a brunette singer. Will you have both of those lead singers back for the reunion? That's what I want to know. Samuel DeJesus says, Jim, who else do you know will commit to Michigan State soon? Yeah, we never know for sure, right? But Peyton Kirkland looks favorable. He said Michigan State's a leader. That sounds pretty good. And if they get a commitment from him, you got to keep recruiting him. As they say in the South, recruiting doesn't start until you make a commitment. I don't know if that's totally the case, but he's a big one. Georgia kid, that's the theme tonight. Peyton Fleetmeyer says, I enjoy your non-football discussions, laughing out loud. Thank you. Jeff Thoman says, everybody knows that summer is only worthwhile through the 4th of July holiday. After that, summer ends. And Prefo. I don't know what Prefo means. I would disagree with Jeff Thoman about that. I would respectfully disagree with that. He says, everybody knows that summer is only worthwhile through July 4th holiday. Everybody knows that? I didn't get the memo on that. I don't know that. To me, man, summer keeps rocking through July and into August. Love it. I like the fall, too. Connor Theo says, 2-part question. Do you expect the tight end passing game to be an X factor this year? Do you expect Peyton Thorne to give us more zone read looks this year, shades of Lewerke versus Western Michigan in 2017? Peyton Thorne, a little bit here and there just to keep you honest, but I don't think a heavy dose of it. I don't think they want to. He's a decent runner, but he's not enough of a game-breaking runner that you want to sew that in and bake that in every single week and subject him to the type of hits that quarterbacks get if you run zone read too often. Because zone read, if they take away the running back, the quarterback keeps it. They tee off on that guy. More than 2 or 3 times a game, third down, short yardage situations, okay. But to answer your question, no, I'm not expecting more zone read. RPOs, yeah. And RPOs, one part of the RPO is the quarterback keep. So that's part of it. But no, Lewerke had the long run against Western Michigan. But even Lewerke under D'Antonio would do zone read a little bit, but not a constant dose of it. First question, he said, do you expect the tight end passing game to be an X factor this year? X factor, yeah. Not more than offensive line play, maybe not more than the kicking, maybe not more than defensive end depth. But tight ends, Connor Hayward came in and was a big surprise last year, 35 catches, became an NFL draft pick, former running back. Everybody knows the story on him. And they found creative ways to use him, but Connor Hayward was an interesting, well-rounded talent. And with excellent hands for a big burly body, just a different type of guy. So now tight end, you've got Barker coming in from Illinois with 11 career touchdowns. Good veteran, reliable, proven guy. Tyler Hunt's a guy that can come in. He's proven. He's your second string guy. It's a nice second stringer, right? Malik Carr has a chance to be game breaker, good quickness, goes above the rim at 6'6", 6'7". So Malik Carr's got to continue to come along as a blocker. We've said that many times. Harold Joyner, running back. Can you get him as an H and do some tight end things with him? I think so. X factor, yes. Jay Johnson loves to use the tight end, both splitting out, also attached to the offensive line. They got some talent there. Barker's a transfer from Illinois. Malik Carr is a talent on the rise. and Tyler Hunt as a good, solid ham and egger. Tyler Hunt, what do you have, 12 catches last year? And we had an article at SpartanMag.com yesterday, 2 days ago, about the tight ends. Spoke with Ted Gilmore, tight ends coach, and he said that Tyler Hunt has added 10 pounds. I think he was 235 last year. He's up to 245. He's not going to be the biggest muscle man tight end you've ever seen, but an interesting athlete, Tyler Hunt. As everybody knows, came to Michigan State as a walk-on punter. Punters are rare. I mean, we all go out in the backyard growing up punting the ball, and most of us sucked at it, right? I've been to hundreds of high school football games, and how many times have I seen like a Division I level punter at a high school football game? Not very often. They're just, I mean, those guys that like boom 45-yarders, there's just not many of them. Takes a tall guy with a lot of flexibility. I don't know what the terms are, terminology. In baseball, it's bat speed, exit velocity. I don't know what it is for punter. Is it foot speed and exit velocity? I don't know what it is, but there's not many guys that have got the measurables. Tyler Hunt had the measurables. Came in, did some punting, did some emergency punting when there were some injuries. Was okay at it. Then decided, hey, you know what? I'm going to be a tight end. What? And, I mean, how many people are capable of playing college football? How many people are capable of being a punter? Not many. And then how many can be a punter and then say, no, you know, I'm going to be a tight end. And then do it and start and make 12 catches. And the dude, I think, he's got like a crazy arm, right? He can throw the ball like 70 yards right-handed. And he can throw it like 55 yards left-handed. The guy's just kind of an athletic genius. Kind of makes me sick a little bit. I'm joking. I'm proud of him. Tyler Hunt. Everybody loves Tyler Hunt. Chris Martinez says, smash that like button. Thanks, Chris Martinez. Smash the like button. We appreciate that. So far, we've got 71 likes tonight. Appreciate that. And we're inching toward 6,000 subscribers at Spartan Mag YouTube channel. We'll get up to 6,000. What should I do? I'm not going to do anything. I'll just thank everybody. Give attaboys and fist pumps to everybody. Let's see. I just got a note from somebody. Let's see what he says. All right. Got that. I can't repeat that. Don Strait, thanks again. Spartan MD says, most agree. Thank you for those likes. Spartan MD says, most agree land grant trophy is kind of a monstrosity. He says, I think it should be a giant bust, no pun intended, of the originator of the land grant college in 1855, Mr. President Abraham Lincoln. I went into some Howard Cosell there for a second. Sorry about that. Yeah, a bust of Abraham Lincoln for the land grant. I don't hate that. Just to have an Abe head. You know, when I think land grant, the pioneer land grant institutions, Michigan State, Penn State, in order to start them, you had to break ground, right? You had to break ground with a shovel. I think they should play for a shovel. Nobody plays for a gall darn shovel. I think the land grant trophy should have been a shovel, maybe with Abe's head on it. I don't know. Maybe Abe's head on the handle. I don't know. But I like what you're going with that. Abe Lincoln gets a thumbs up from me. Everything Abe Lincoln. Good fella. That was the Moral Act. 1855. Michigan State was the first one. And at Michigan State University, we had Morrill Hall for a long time. I think they tore it down 10, 15 years ago, I think. I had class in Morrill Hall, and it smelled old in there. Loved it. Spartan MD says Michigan State versus Penn State for the 1855 Abe. Playing for the Abe. Marlon Milano tapping in from Belleville, Michigan. Great to have him. Kyle Weiss says, do you think Braxton is going to flip? Braxton, a good corner. We talked about him last week. Had some video of him here. Excellent corner. Like him a lot. I thought he was the most underrated of all the commitments. If you can be underrated at a high 3-star, borderline 4-star. But, yeah, that's the word, after, Michigan State got the commitment from him, and then he went ahead and was planning to visit Arkansas, which he did. It's a little closer to home. Arkansas has got a pretty strong NIL game going. Michigan State's got a strong NIL game going. So who is going to promise more money? Do you promise money, or do you promise opportunities? Does one school just tell you what they think you can do at Michigan State And does the other program tell you what you're going to get at Arkansas? I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. A lot of the NIL thing is quiet. But it's closer to home. Arkansas's got a pretty good thing going too. But I like Braxton a lot as a player. And but I do think he's headed to Arkansas. Don Strait says, hi, Spartans. Let's see some thumbs up and sponsorships. Thanks, Don. Appreciate that. Got 82 likes now. Gene Riddenauer says, thanks for coming out tonight, Jim. Always excited to see you on the YouTube. Thank you, Gene. Noah Sprunger, intern extraordinaire for SpartanMag.com. We appreciate everything Noah Sprunger brings to the table. A lot of insight in the recruiting world. And just a real bright guy that has it's really taken a lot of ownership of what we have going on the website. We appreciate him being a part of it. We really do. And Jason also. Jason Kilp is great. Paul Konerdyk's great. Ricardo Cooney, the whole cast. But Noah, I rely on him a lot. Like every day, he gives me little tips and stuff about breaking news. I reached out to Noah and Jason. I'm like, hey, if something happens, let me know. Because sometimes I'm asleep at the switch. I don't get the memo on things. Noah lets me know. It's briefing. In any newsroom, you need people to brief you on things. And those guys keep me briefed. And Noah is valuable. I appreciate the time he puts in. And he's part of Spartan Mag. And we're glad that he's a part of it. And we hope that he enjoys being a part of it. It's valuable. And, he does some editing. Sometimes I'll finish a story late at night or something. I'll send it to him, or it might be in the middle of the day. And maybe I've been up all night. Hey, give this a read. So he does some proofreading too, which is important. And and he's a younger guy, and it's good for me to have him as a sounding board just to see how things are playing in Peoria a little bit. But Noah Sprunger, he's got a great future in a lot of ways outside of journalism. And as he gets into those, he might not have as much time for us, but we hope that we hope that Spartan Mag is fun for him, because we certainly appreciate him. Noah Sprunger says, free running back article. Oh, there it is. He's posting the story that we had a couple days ago, or last week, Michigan State. Kind of a summer, midsummer, football warm-up. Let's look at the running back position. Quotes from Ephraim Reed. Had it in there. A couple days ago, we looked at the tight end position. We got a couple other stories coming in. We can't do every single position, but we've got a few with some quotes and insight from Michigan State coaches. Thanks, Noah, for posting that. Marlon Milano says, yeah, I think Collins and Simmons may hit the portal. Interesting point. I have to tell you that I kind of expected one or both to have done that like right around spring practice, but it didn't happen. They both came back. They must love it. Wouldn't surprise me if that happens at some point. I kind of thought Simmons might have been a candidate for that already. Has not happened yet, but I hear what you're saying. Jason T says, as much as I love Tom Izzo, I'm beginning to feel like the game is passing him by, both on the court, coaching, and recruiting. Jason T, I would disagree with that. Passing him by. Recruiting. They're recruiting okay, going after Devin Royal. That's going to be tough. I've heard different things about him in terms of leanings. Devin Royal, Pickerington, Ohio, top 80 type of guy, kind of a 3-4, skill, some thickness, good kid. Visited Michigan State 2 weeks ago, had a very good visit. The Michigan State people think they're in good shape, but I'm hearing from some sources from Ohio that the Buckeyes lead. At Michigan State, they thought that, I don't know. So I'm hearing opposite from good sources on both ends, so I don't know what to believe on there. But recruiting, Jackson Kohler was a pretty good recruit. This guy Cooper that they brought in at the very end, I think is going to be a steal as a no-star. Just before COVID, Michigan State went to the Final Four, and then 2020 they were primed to go to the Final Four again. And there's been, 2 seasons played since then? Struggled in 2021, but that season was kind of upside down. Got into the tournament every year as usual. This year, ups and downs. Got in the tournament as usual and beat Davidson in a challenging situation and had Duke down 5 by 5 with 5 minutes to go. Duke goes to the Final Four. Everybody knows Duke is Duke, right? And people think that's bad. Jason T, if you think basketball's passed Izzo by, wait till how your life changes after Izzo isn't coaching Michigan State anymore. Maybe Michigan State will be fortunate enough to get someone like a Mel Tucker, the Mel Tucker of basketball. Odds are against it. If you're frustrated with Michigan State basketball right now, you're going to need a new hobby for the next 30 years. Because the glory years were the previous 26 with Tom Izzo. So don't be wishing him away, because after he's gone, chances are, I hate to say it, but chances are Michigan State basketball-wise is going to become Iowa. Chances are. Am I predicting that? Kind of. I'm just saying that's what you have in your future. So don't be... I appreciate you watching and posting something like that, but that's stupid. I'm sorry. Sorry, Jason. Hate to say that, but it's ridiculous. All right. Nick Harrington, Jim Comp. Gordon Tonona says 8 Final Fours. How many Final Fours have you coached in? All right, here they go. Jackson Hitchcock, Pony Express 2.0. I don't know what he means by Pony Express 2.0, but I know who Jackson Hitchcock is. Jackson, we're going to talk. We're going to talk. Thanks for watching. Marlon Milano says Eaglin went to Alabama A&M. Wow, I thought it was SMU. Who went to SMU? You're right. Somebody went to SMU. Oh, tight end did. Cam Allen. So I got Cam Allen, the other Texan. Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Marlon Milano. Check out the brain on Marlon Milano. And by the way, Jason, sorry I lost my temper. Appreciate you posting. And I appreciate you posting, a strong opinion and taking time to do it and being part of the show. And I shouldn't have been so mean about it. Gordon Tonona says, I live in Albany, Georgia. Jackson Hitchcock says, does Izzo expect Hauser to start at the 5? I've not asked him about that, but, Malik Hall and Hauser have experience playing together. And when they have, Hauser's played the 5. Sometimes it's survival mode a little bit. So against some teams they can be okay, but against the big guy at Michigan and others, it'll be difficult. You need Sissoko in there, obviously, but Sissoko has had some problems, and among them has been foul trouble. So Hauser, I wouldn't be surprised if he starts at the 5. Most teams don't have true centers. So, as Izzo likes to say, we could have a problem defensively, but they have to guard us too. And that's one way to do it, but, Michigan State's been just kind of okay in terms of getting mismatched scoring at the 4 and the 5 when they go small. So, you still need to be strong and airtight with some big guys that can wall people off inside. So, I think Hauser might be starting at the 5, and Hauser's going to do his best. He's going to do some good things at the 4 and do some good things offensively. But asking him to guard most centers is a tough ask. And if it doesn't work out, I wouldn't blame Hauser. He'll do the best he can. All right, Will Stallworth says, what's going on with this lawsuit against Michigan State? Did I miss something? What was that about? That was, somebody, was it the Free Press? Filed a Freedom of Information Act about, I should know this, but I wanting more information. Was it on the coaching, the Mel Tucker coaching contract? They wanted more specifics on, I think, where the payments are coming from and so forth. And it's been blocked by Michigan State. So now there's a lawsuit. Because I think Michigan State is, I don't know all about this, but I think Michigan State is saying these are private donations. It's not necessarily it doesn't count. It should not necessarily be transparent. The Free Press is saying, yes, it should be. You're a state institution. So I don't know. So, interesting. Jackson Hitchcock says, because that got thrown out like 2 years ago. The Blackwell lawsuit. Okay. Dan Adcock says, I'm listening with pleasure from Missoula, Montana. Looks like there's a river in the background there for Dan Adcock. Looks like a river runs through it there in Missoula. Nice picture. I hope he's doing some fly fishing out there. Can be tough wading in some of those big rivers, though, right? You don't want to lose your footing. Marlon Milano says, what do you think about the 2 quarterbacks, the kid from Tennessee and the kid from Miami, getting $8 million and $9.5 million in name, image, and likeness money? That's what they say. Some people say that money is not actually legit. That's just the talk. But the Tennessee guy, that's from a collective, apparently. I think there's a lot of pressure on that guy. Hey, he doesn't mind. If he's actually getting $8 million, that's fine. Tennessee's going to have some strong collectives because they've got a huge fan base and a very rabid fan base. So when they pass the hat, they will collect money, but can they expect that type of money each and every year? Remains to be seen. Some of these programs with billionaires that fund it, like in Miami, maybe they will have that money every year. So $8 million for a quarterback at Tennessee. We all know that quarterbacks sometimes pan out. High school recruits in general sometimes pan out. $8 million for a quarterback. Makes me wonder how many offensive and defensive linemen could you get for $8 million? They talk about Texas. What are they getting? $50,000 a year for the offensive lineman for 16 guys? What is that, $800,000? That's for an entire offensive line room. Under $1 million. So $9 million for a quarterback. I think they could probably get a pretty good quarterback for less than that and pour more of that money around with some linemen. That's what I think about that. But Gordon Sonona says, I don't believe it. Milano says, if it's true, it's crazy. I agree with both. I also agree that you're worth whatever somebody's willing to pay you. So if the Tennessee coaches are telling the collective, put $9 million on that quarterback, they think he's worth it. There's also a saying that a fool and his money soon part. Is that how it says? Is that what it was? Was that Shakespeare or Ben Franklin? Or neither? I don't know. So, what do I think? With that player, I have a feeling, and that coaching staff, I mean, Heupel made some noise this year at Tennessee, made some progress. Throwing around that kind of money, good for them if they've got it. What do I think? I suspect it won't end well. Just a hunch. Jackson Hitchcock says, I believe the kid from Tennessee deal. He says, I believe the kid from Tennessee deal way more than the Miami kid. Not sure why, but let's see. Tennessee guys, number 3 quarterback nationally. We're believing lawyers now. Eric M. says, late to the party. What's up, everyone? Checking in from Roswell, Georgia. Very, very Peach State-oriented show tonight. All right, I'm going to go ahead and look through this. Let's go back to the... let's go back to the mailbag. All right. This goes along with what Nolan was talking about when he called the show earlier. Should I put the phone number back up? It's 11 o'clock. It's a little bit late. Maybe we'll do that some other time. I keep saying we're going to go more than once a week, and maybe that'll be true soon because I want to. Michael from New Jersey says, what are your thoughts about the Big Ten going to a 3-5-5 schedule like the ACC? Who do you think would be our 3 teams that we would play every year? And I agree with what Nolan said about most likely Michigan, protected, of course, and Penn State. And that's kind of what I thought at first blush. I thought that Michigan State, every year has played Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State. Very tough, allergies. It's very tough to play all 3 of those perennial, maybe not perennial, but traditional superpowers, right? Every single year. Tough. They may not all be good in one particular year, but over the course of 20 years, it's going to be difficult. So, I think when they go to this, Michigan State will no longer play all 3. And I think that'll be a little bit easier of a schedule. Now, I know that Iowa and Minnesota and Wisconsin, some tough teams are going to come in here and there once in a while. But year in and year out, I know Iowa and Wisconsin have been good pretty much for the last 35 years. So I guess they're here to stay now, right? Well, 30 years, since 1993 with Wisconsin. 30 years, wow. I mean, if you're old enough, you remember when they were just terrible in the late 80s, in all the 80s. Except for there a little bit in like 1984 when they had Mohap at fullback and some of those guys. Chucky Davis. 1981. Dave McClain was the coach then, right? They were good there for a little bit. Then they went back downhill. Iowa was terrible for a long, long time, except for maybe the Niall Kinnick era and maybe the Alex Karras era. But Hayden Fry came in. They've had 2 coaches since, 1978. Good on them. Anyway, I don't know. Normally, Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State are going to be better than Wisconsin, Iowa, I guess, right? So anyway, you might be playing Iowa and Wisconsin more frequently and Penn State less frequently. I'm sorry, Ohio State less frequently. I think that those 3 teams are no longer going to be playing each other every single year. I suspect Michigan State will drop Ohio State, and Ohio State drops Michigan State, of course. I think Michigan drops Penn State a little bit, and Penn State drops Michigan, of course. Not entirely, but they will be off the rotation. And instead of playing each other every single year, it might be 4 out of every 12 years. And, Michigan State, Ohio State used to be like that back in the 70s and most of the 80s. You would miss a team in the Big Ten once in a while. Michigan State missed Ohio State somewhat frequently. I mean, it's not going to be like the SEC where like Alabama and Georgia almost never play each other in the regular season. And that's all cooking of the books to try to make both great. I mean, 1980 when Georgia won the national championship with Herschel Walker, they were good. But at that time, Alabama was a national power. Alabama's always a national power, right? But Alabama had won the national title in 78, I think. Great team. Georgia's kind of an upstart. Herschel Walker was a freshman. Buck Bellew, Scott Warner, all those guys. Good team. More Georgia theme. Didn't mean it that way. Georgia was good. They escaped the game with Lindsey Scott. Had trouble with George Rogers in South Carolina that year also. Had trouble with Notre Dame in the Sugar Bowl. Not a great Notre Dame team either. But anyway, Georgia was good. Had little problems here and there. Played a decent Notre Dame team in the Sugar Bowl, but they didn't have to play Alabama. I can't remember who the quarterback was at Alabama then. Was Stedman Shealy gone by then? Major Ogilvy was a running back. Was he gone? Not sure. Tony Nathan gone? I don't know. But it was Alabama's Bear Bryant. It was good. Georgia didn't have to play him. Isn't that fortunate? Anyway. But I suspect when it all gets reshuffled again, those three teams, and now that Michigan State's good again, they've got a seat at the table again. Timing is good for this. Dropping Ohio State from the schedule. I think it's going to happen. Is that good? Well, it decreases your chances of an automatic loss. I shouldn't say automatic loss because Michigan State has beaten Ohio State more than anyone else in the Big Ten for the last 20, 30 years, pretty much. Look that one up. But the negative is season ticket sales. And there have been administrators at Michigan State in the athletic department and elsewhere, ADs and deputy ADs, that would be like, screw the coach. Give them a tough schedule. We got to sell tickets. If they don't win, that's the coach's fault. We're playing Ohio State. We're playing the best. I think the Mark Hollis approach would have been more like, I'd rather play Northwestern every year. That's kind of the Barry Alvarez approach. That's part of the way they built Wisconsin. Bill Snyder, Kansas State, that's how they built Kansas State. I'm not saying Michigan State needs any cakewalk, but at some point it's kind of smarter to, not seek those games out as much. So here's the deal. For years and years and years, you play Michigan, that helps your season ticket sales. You play them at home every other year. When you don't play Michigan at home, you play Notre Dame at home. That's the way it was for decades. You played Michigan in odd number years. You played Notre Dame on even number years at home. So if you're a season ticket holder, you're guaranteed a Michigan game or a Notre Dame game every single year. Notre Dame dropped from the schedule for reasons everybody knows. Michigan State would love to play them, but Notre Dame's not holding a place on the dance card for them. So what does Michigan State do to make the even-numbered years more attractive? Because you're going to be playing at Michigan. You're going to be playing Michigan at home on odd number years. So even number years, you can try to get like a great non-conference game every year, but that's slim pickings. I mean, Arizona State, Washington, Oregon. I'd like to see Tennessee added to that. They don't have a natural non-conference rival they're playing every year. I think Oklahoma might become available maybe. That would be interesting. So that's a challenge. Boston College is going to be on for home and home. They went with Miami, although they didn't play Miami at home because of the COVID situation. So Boston College, Miami, does that move? It's kind of interesting, but it's not like Notre Dame, right? Some people are happy to get Notre Dame off so you can have more variety. Well, you got variety, but in terms of selling tickets, you kind of need that. So in recent years, you've had Michigan every year and then Ohio State the next year. And Ohio State isn't, it's a traditional opponent and all that. Notre Dame was offered a little more pizzazz to it because it's September, right? The Ohio State game, it's different. It's a little more of an ornery game, and you're not as likely to win. So the other thing is Penn State's been nice to have on the schedule every year, and I think you want to keep Penn State on. But let me say this. The ACC, the way they did it, they did a 3-5-5, and you had 3 guaranteed dance partners every year. And like I said earlier, you'd have a lightweight, a middleweight, and a heavyweight. So the heavyweight for Michigan State would be Michigan. Lightweight, I don't know. Could be Northwestern, I don't know. The middleweight, Penn State's better than a middleweight. So do you want to be like Florida State? Florida State got screwed in the ACC scheduling. They have to play Clemson and Miami. They got 2 heavyweights, theoretically. If you're Michigan State, do you want Penn State every year? It can help your scheduling a little bit if you have Penn State at home every other year, Thanksgiving weekend. There's some tradition there. I think it's worth keeping, but it might make your schedule a little bit harder than it needs to be if you follow the ACC middleweight, heavyweight, lightweight thing. If you go Michigan and Penn State, then you got 2 heavyweights, but your end of the season, you can sell a few more tickets Thanksgiving weekend. And it never sells out. It's a very tough ticket to sell Thanksgiving weekend for various reasons. The students are gone. The weather's cold. Let's face it. Michigan, Ohio State play that game. If there's a day to stay home and not tailgate, and just watch football, it can be attractive to stay home for that one. Those of you that went to the snow game against Penn State, glorious situation. And that snow was coming down start to finish. I've never seen a game like that at Michigan State. And people say it's never happened before in terms of start to finish steady snowfall. And it was amazing. As a matter of fact, I might call that up on the DVR and watch that again because I've not really watched it again since it was played. And those of you like Big Mooby that wore ski pants, good move. I am a proponent of ski pants, or if it's going to rain pants. People think about a coat, I'll be fine, but then you sit down and your legs are exposed. Your thighs are exposed. It gets rained on, gets snowed on, you're miserable. You got to gear up, people. Get ready for the fall. Get some rain pants. Go to Dick's Sporting Goods, get some rain pants. Get them at Meijer, I don't care. And then if it's really cold, like November, snow, Penn State game, ski pants. Go to Dick's Sporting Goods, pay $80, $90, get some Columbia ski pants. Wear them once a year, you'll be happy. And it's good for rain also. Ski pants. Big Mooby said it made all the difference. He watched there. He was warm and toasty all 4 quarters. Big Mooby, I tell you. Ski pants, football season. So anyway, Penn State. So I'm kind of conflicted on that. I'm not exactly sure what the choices are. I think Michigan State would do well to keep that Penn State game, last game of the year, every year. Tradition is good. Tradition sells. Tradition's fun. Pumpkin pie. Penn State. Let's do it. It's cold weather helmet, cold weather game. But if that means having 2 of 3 heavyweights in the 3-3-5 like the ACC does it, I'm conflicted, and I'm not sure the right way to go. So in a long, convoluted, circuitous way, I just said my answer to your question is I don't know. But we had Nolan on earlier, and we were interested to see what he had to say. And he of course, said Michigan will be the protected game. Everybody knows that. In terms of everything else, I don't know. I'll just say this, being in the Big Ten East, you have Rutgers and Maryland every single year. And, good for them, and I don't mind going there. It's always kind of interesting flavor. But you don't want Maryland and Rutgers, both of them, on your schedule every single year. It's just, welcome to the Big Ten, great, have some crab meat, whatever. It's cool, all right? But the more you're playing them, that just means the less you're playing Minnesota and, Purdue, Illinois, some of these traditional Big Ten foes, right? And some of those, you play Purdue and Illinois, it might not be like the most grand experience, but it still feels like Big Ten football, right? Instead of Maryland every single year. Maryland a little bit here and there, that's fine, but not every single. Those 2 teams every single year. All right, Matt in Springfield, Illinois says, piggybacking off that question, do you think there's any chance Wisconsin would be one of Michigan State's protected rivals? That would allow the Big Ten to protect Penn State versus Nebraska like they did when Nebraska first joined the conference. I'll say I hope not. I would rather play Penn State than let Penn State play Nebraska, and I forgot about that. The Penn State-Michigan State thing was interrupted so that they could have Penn State and Nebraska, and then that kind of fizzled out. But for reasons I just mentioned, I think there's some value to Michigan State versus Penn State, Northwestern, Thanksgiving weekend, every single weekend. And you know what? That snow game last year, people saw that. That was the great snow game of the entire football season, college or pro. That was the snow game. And people see it and remember it. They see the highlights. Yeah, Penn State, Michigan State. Yeah, they play every year in the cold weather, right? That's great. That branding's good. That's good. That's good. Preserve that every Thanksgiving weekend, I think. So, no, I would rather not play Wisconsin than Penn State. I love going to Wisconsin. I love Madison. I like it. I like going there, but I wouldn't go out of my way to tangle that one in. Yeah, play Wisconsin, 8 out of every 12 years, whatever, that's fine, but maybe not every single year. He says, bonus question, Matt from Springfield says, if Wisconsin is protected from Michigan State, any thoughts on creating a trophy game for Wisconsin, calling it Babe the Blue Ox Trophy? Matt is a creative from Springfield, Illinois. Is that the land of Lincoln? Is that where Abe was from? Springfield? I can't remember where in Illinois he's from. Born anyway. Or was he born in Kentucky and grew up in Illinois in a log cabin? Or was he born in Illinois and grew up in Kentucky? I think he might have been born in Kentucky. I don't know. I heard that from someone that I can't really. I don't know if that guy was just kind of throwing out trivia the other day. I should know it, but I don't. Anyway, log cabin, Illinois, land of Lincoln. I know that. But I thought Kentucky was in there somewhere. Anyway, Blue Ox Trophy. Babe the Blue Ox. Babe the Blue Ox, of course, was Paul Bunyan's ox. So Michigan State play for the Paul Bunyan Trophy. Wisconsin and Minnesota play for the Paul Bunyan Axe. I see where you're going with this, Matt in Springfield, Illinois. You want to name something after the ox. Babe the Blue Ox Trophy. I don't hate it. I would have liked it better if it were established in like 1933. But I think there's just enough trophy games in the Big Ten. The Big Ten has more trophy games than anybody. It's probably good just to leave it just the way it is, to allow the trophy games to be somewhat uncommon enough that they're semi-special. And they are special. They're fun. Babe the Blue Ox, I don't hate it. But, nah. I don't think you want Wisconsin to be a protected rival. Because, again, you want heavyweight, middleweight, lightweight. You don't want to go heavyweight. You don't want to go joker. Darth Sparty from Sparts Unknown says, what is your prediction for the two deep across the offensive line for Michigan State as of today? As of today, starting left tackle, Jarrett Horst. He's back. Michigan State sent out a little picture the other day on social media, and Jarrett Horst was out there. He's number 79, right? I think the thing was commemorating that there's 79 days till the opening date. Is that right? Is my math right? Jarrett Horst out there, shirtless, working out, had the GPS thing on. Jarrett Horst, he's proven left tackle. Hope everything's okay with him. He's your left tackle. Left guard, J.D. Duplain, proven, solid, getting older, solid. Center, I'll go with Nick Samac. It's time for him to shine. Got to raise it up. Need it from Nick Samac. Right guard, I'm going to go with Brian Green, the transfer from Washington State. You could flip-flop those two. Could end up with Brian Green at center and Samac at guard. So I'm going to put Brian Green at right guard. Even though Matt Carrick is coming back with a knee and he's on schedule, I'm going to go Brian Green, the transfer there. Just my hunch. Wouldn't surprise me if it's Carrick. Carrick last year was playing like a starter. Last year as a second stringer behind Kevin Jarvis. Then he got hurt. Then our Curry got hurt, and Jarvis had to go back out to tackle. But Carrick as a backup last year was good, but I'm going to put him in as second string guard. And even if the knee gets better and he plays well, he'll be a nice reserve. If his knee is great and he's good, he could push Green and start. Right tackle, Spencer Brown. Started in the bowl game, looked good. Saw him today on social media. Michigan State sent out a little video of him in the weight room. But he's thicker. I remember when he was a high school kid, I interviewed him, and he was a thin guy. Always a good, fun, happy, jovial, good-natured, positive guy. He's really thickened out, become a man. Well, I mean, he's always been a man, but, I mean, he put on some man mass and strength. And I think he was the bright spot of the Peach Bowl. They had all the other injuries going on. And then, what was the other injury that was a surprise that day? I can't remember. But anyway, all of a sudden, Spencer Brown had to make his first start, and he was solid against a very good Pittsburgh pass rush. It's like, whoa, he's a player. Can he do it every single week? I assume so. He's already shown it. Looked like he was working hard today. So, Spencer Brown has never really played much, but judging by that bowl game, I mean, Spencer Brown, why not think he can go in and be a plus player? Why not? And if he is, good for him. And he was a 4-star recruit for Rivals.com, and I disagreed with that. I thought he was a 3-star project. I did not like his lateral movement in high school. I thought he was a project. I thought he might be a defensive end. But he's proven me wrong. He was a project. He worked on it, and he was kind of like idling around there for a while, and then last year traction and got the start, and boom, he was good. And now he's got some confidence, got some experience. Now looking like a 2-year starter at right tackle. That looks like a 4-star recruit coming to fruition. Good job on that one, people that put that together. So that's my starting lineup. That's what I'm guessing. Horst, Duplain, Samac, Green, Brown. Second string, left tackle, Brandon Baldwin, 6'6", 312. He cares. He goes after it. He's an athlete. He's got more to learn. Junior college transfer, but he's on schedule. Second string, left guard, Kevin Wigginton. He's good with his assignments. Just has to get stronger and get physical. Backup center, Dallas Fincher, played guard and center during the spring. He's gotten his weight up around 300, looking solid. Brian Green can also play center. I'll go Fincher there. Second string right guard. I'll go Carrick. He's done it before, ahead of Gino Vandermark, who's looking good. And he was doing well, but then he was out in mid-spring as a true freshman, battling back from a little injury there. But I'll go with Carrick. He's been there, done that. Is Carrick a sixth-year guy now? Nice guy to have around. Second string right tackle, Ethan Brown. Going to be a redshirt freshman from East Lansing. Big, long. He's in good shape. Shows flashes here and there. Needs consistency. He's an athlete. But your second string, left tackle, Brandon Baldwin. Left guard, Kevin Wigginton. Center, Dallas Fincher. Right guard, Matt Carrick. Asterisk, Gino Vandermark. Vandermark's got a good future. Right tackle, Ethan Boyd. Question number 10, Bill from Byron Center. He says, please comment on the hiring of Thomas Kelly, Tom Izzo's newest assistant. What will his responsibilities be, and where does he fit in the staff pecking order? Had you heard of any rumblings of Dwayne Stevens' interest in bringing Thomas Kelly to Western Michigan prior to joining Izzo's staff? A lot of questions there. Yes, he was already on the Western Michigan staff, and Stevens was going to retain him until the opening came up, his own opening at Michigan State. Kelly applied for it, got it. Pecking order, they all kind of share it. They're all, Montgomery's been around longer, so he's going to have, and Wojcik's been a head coach. They've both been head coaches. So those are the two guys with the most experience. Kelly's going to be new in terms of an assistant at this level, so he's not going to be at their level, but he's going to have equal say in recruiting evaluations and recruiting tasks and business and work. He'll have equal, They rotate who has the scout. Like if we're playing Penn State on Thursday and Purdue on Saturday, okay, you got the Penn State scout, you got the Purdue scout. And they might, if it's a key game, they might lean more to Wojcik or Montgomery initially, but Kelly will get his chance. And they've trusted him in the past when he's a graduate assistant. Izzo said that he did a really good job with assisting with player development and with scouting back when he was a GA. So he's done some of that. And the interesting thing about Thomas Kelly is he was a GA in 2015. That was 16 years after he finished his college career at Michigan State in 1999. He had a really long professional career overseas, not with the Premier Leagues, but with the secondary leagues over there. And you can save money over there doing that. And he did that for 15 years, stayed in good shape. I used to see him over there at Moneyball pretty much every summer. He'd stay in shape playing Moneyball. Good guy, always smile on the face guy. Grand Rapids Union High School. I remember when Michigan State recruited him, when I first started at Spartan Magazine, way back before the days of the internet. Well, the internet was just a bunch of message boards back then. But 1993, it would have been around that time when Thomas Kelly was an incoming freshman, was a senior at Grand Rapids Union, and we were doing a story on him. We needed a photo for the cover of Spartan Magazine, the old newsprint edition. There was no internet. There was no email. You couldn't just take a picture and digitally send it to somebody. You had to show up with a photographer, take a picture, get film, and develop the film. And then I don't know how the hell they did it, but somehow the photo came out and you'd send it to the printer, and then it ended up on the front of the magazine. I still don't know how that worked. I just wrote the stuff. I don't know how any of that worked. So we had a basketball recruiting issue. We needed a photo of Thomas Kelly. So I had my old photographer from Greenville, Michigan, Dan Manley, a wonderful guy. I love him dearly. Haven't seen him in a long time. Hope he's doing well. Great person. So me and Dan, we went over to Thomas Kelly's house in August of 1993, something like that. I've covered recruiting for a long, 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 long time. Covered thousands of recruits. The only recruit that I've ever went to his house was Thomas Kelly for that photo shoot. Long time ago. So I've known Thomas since he was 17. And when I see him, He's got that big smile on his face. He's happy to see you. He's happy to see everybody. His tail's always wagging. So good for him. Got into the coaching ranks recently, 2015, 2016, GA, and got in with Western Michigan, and Izzo brought him back. So Izzo knows what he's getting. And good for Thomas Kelly. I've not seen him since that was announced. I need to go over there and see him. Usually I'd see him on the recruiting trail, but the baseball thing is taking me off the recruiting trail a little bit, just for a little bit. My kid he's 17 now, so you don't get, the time's ticking down, and my baseball tournament travel days. So making the most of it now. I hope all the subscribers understand that. Don't want to wish your life away and rush your life away, but at some point, those excellent portions of those chapters of my life been very great, but they'll be pushed aside, and I'll be able to go full throttle on recruiting again here in the future. And I'll need that to keep my sanity, because I'm going to miss him. And not that he's like going away like to Mars or something, but he's going to be a senior this year. Anyway, what else we have here? Question number 11, Jay Bannon from Sterling Heights says there are a lot of comments about how much Michigan State commits can expect from name, image, and likeness. That part of recruiting has been very quiet, but many other fan bases are saying Michigan State is buying recruits because of our success this recruiting cycle. What have you heard? He asks. Yeah, buying recruits. I've not heard someone saying that. I mean, I don't doubt that people are saying that. I'm not surprised that people are saying that. I don't know what kind of idiots are saying that. Buying recruits. What do you have to do to buy recruits these days? Basically, Michigan State is checking a lot of boxes. I know that's a cliche, but Michigan State is checking boxes. They won pretty big last year. Have you seen the campus? The campus is beautiful, especially in June. Although the weather was not perfect for the first two recruiting weekends. The facilities are going to be great. The name, image, and likeness came from Michigan State. It is well organized, and the pockets are pretty deep. But you're right, we are not hearing many specifics about it. That's by design. But they are talking about it because it does come up. The recruits ask about it, the parents ask about it. So Michigan State has answers that they have for them. We don't know exactly what they're saying, but it's being talked about, but it's also being kept kind of quiet. But Michigan State is well organized there. And Michigan State, in terms of recruiting, they've got some pretty dynamic coaches. You've seen Mel Tucker, right? Chris Kapilovic is recruiting offensive linemen like no one around here has at that position. Brandon Jordan, the things he can give as a pass rush specialist, pretty valuable in recruiting circles. Jay Johnson's doing a good job with quarterback recruiting and tight ends and things of that nature. Harlan Barnett and Tucker, tag team defensive back recruiting, pretty strong. So name, image, and likeness is a part of it, and Michigan State is not asleep at the wheel on that. But to say that is the only reason they're getting people is just foolhardy, because Michigan State's checking all those boxes I just mentioned. So if people want to say that they're buying players, let them think what they want. Let them say what they want. I don't care much about it, but you're there in Sterling Heights. It probably bothers you because you probably hear from certain people that wear certain colors. But buying players, Michigan State's not lacking in name, image, and likeness, and they're busy in that regard. But there's, Michigan State's kind of a nice campus, kind of a nice university, it's in a nice conference with nice facilities and nice coaches. Checking boxes. Buying players. If people want to think that, I don't waste much time caring about it. But I guess since we're in the talking business and this is talking season and you're bothered by it, if people tell you that they're buying players, in some ways, that's the way the game's played now. I mean, it's been played that way in some regards, in some pockets, illegally in a lot of places, forever, for a long time. Now it's just kind of all legal. So now that it's become legal and Michigan State has a coach that's ready to do that, Michigan State's got some bullets in that chamber. All right, question number 12 from Green Ref. He says, how about the offensive line? Wait a minute, that guy had a second question. All right. Green Ref, how about the offensive line for 2022? Should we be worried? Worried. Worried is a strong word, but my answer is sure. Be worried about the offensive line. You've got to retool there a little bit. You've got to rely on some people that have not, that have had some little quirks in the past. Horst has to go 12 games. Samac is the guy now. He needs to step up. Can Spencer Brown keep doing it? Worried, they've got some players that have been somewhat functional and proven maybe in short snippets here and there. And Kapilovic, it's a really good offensive line coach. Did a great job with him last year, so he's got to put the puzzle together again. And so I think there's some pieces there, and I think they've got a pretty good puzzle master. So worried? Sure, be worried about everything. But there's a chance they could be okay. Maybe better than okay. Question 13 from Spartan Fan 81 from Orange County, California. Hold on a second here. He says, is anyone standing out in the summer conditioning off-season program? Good question. All I can go by is the award winners that they've been putting out on social media. And for week 4, you may have seen it. Spartan Speed Award winner was Elijah Collins, running back, senior. The Spartan Strength Award for week 4, left guard J.D. Duplain, fixing to have a good season. And the Spartan Power Award, linebacker transfer from Mississippi State, Aaron Brule. In terms of week 1, week 2, or week 3, I didn't look him up. But who's looking good off-season conditioning? I've not really heard. I think it's a pretty safe bet. Everybody's looking pretty good. But I am interested to hear what they say about some of the transfers, like Bogle, Brule. Brule's a guy that's got... I have to go back and look at that photo of him, too, by the way. Because I didn't think he was all that cut up at Mississippi State last year. I'm not sure he was in his best fighting weight, as they used to say. I suspect there's a chance that the magic wand, pixie dust that they put on Kenneth Walker last year, I think some of that could land on Brule. I think Brule could go for a guy that was pretty good at Mississippi State, was supposed to be the face of the defense, kind of lost his job a little bit. I think he could go from like that guy to like very good. He did some things in that scrimmage that were like, whoa, that dude's covering some ground. So Brule is a guy, he's a dude. I think he's a dude. Question number 14, Dan from Saskatoon. We love Saskatoon. We love Saskatchewan. We love Manitoba, too. From Saskatoon, he says, how's the running back room looking? Berger or Broussard or Committee? I think it's those two at the 1-2 punch. We talked about it earlier. Collins is proven. Simmons is kind of proven. Prim is on the rise. But it's hard to play more than 2 running backs, right? Usually play 2.5. I got to believe it's Berger and Broussard. Unless something else gets shaken there a little bit. But Elijah Collins kind of is what he is. They know what he is, and I think they're kind of expecting the other two to be a little bit better. We'll see. Question 15, Al and I don't know that for sure. No coaches told me that. I'm just reading between the lines a little bit. Question 15, Al from Oakland County says, with the in-season college basketball rumblings last year of A.J. Hoggard's malcontent, seemingly mitigated by heart-to-heart conversations with Tom Izzo, and perhaps bolstered by improved leadership towards the tail end of the season, do you take his most recent comments about leading the team with words and actions more seriously than similar sentiments made in the past? In truth, do I think Hoggard truly will turn the corner and become the alpha dog leader this season? Great question, Al from Oakland County. And you're right, there was some malcontent going on there a little bit. Last year with Hoggard, there was some oil and water kind of thing going on there a little bit. Izzo didn't love the way Hoggard was doing some things. You know, some point guard disposition. You might remember some press conferences last year when Tom Izzo would say, you know, sometimes the point guard needs to take some blame and volunteer to take some blame. Even if he's not to blame, just take the blame. He was talking about Hoggard. Because Hoggard had a disposition about him that he was always like blaming other people. You may have seen it on the court a lot. That got under people's skin a little bit. Got under coaches' skin a little bit. So there was some of that. There were some things they wanted him to change about his game. In the meantime, man, Hoggard really came around as a player last year. Can really turn the corner and drive and get to the rim. And he has some ability to pass the ball. Just has a feel for it. You know, something like Rocket Watts never had. Something that Foster Lawyer didn't have. Just some quarterbacking skill. Hoggard has that. Now, can he do more of that as a distributor for others, more so than looking for his own shot? They'd like him to look for his own shot a little less, distribute a little more. So they hammered some of that stuff out. And there were some times when maybe there was some rockiness going on. There's some time when a lot of people thought Hoggard wasn't going to be long for Michigan State. And it might not have been Hoggard's decision. And Michigan State coaches kind of posted him up late in the season. Said, man, you got to do this. If you want to play here, you got to do this. And he wanted to play here. He wanted to do it. And you saw him work on those things late in the season. And now he's got in even better shape, working on his shot some more. Now he's saying all the right things. I think he wants to be the guy Izzo wants him to be. And that's healthy. That's good. I think they found some common ground there. And in the end, if they keep working toward it, Hogard could end up becoming a very, very good player because he's listening to that stuff. It seems like that stuff's sinking in. I'm not sure that he was willing to take all that in the past, but it seems like that's germinating a little bit. And I asked Izzo about that a little bit late last season. I was like, man, this guy, Hogard, reminds me of a young Eric Snow a little bit. He's still just a sophomore, but he's a big dude. Eric Snow was a big guard. Had that lateral movement, that football quickness. He never played football, but he had football athleticism, quickness, ball handler, and the shooting came late at the end of this Eric Snow career. Became an NBA player. Snow became a good distributor too, NBA point guard. Hogard has got some strength, quickness, can play defense, distribute it. The shooting comes around, be like Eric Snow. So he's got that passing knack. Izzo wants to see him be pass first a little more often, but you have the I don't want to say natural passing ability, but like I said, it's something Watson Lawyer didn't have. He's got some passing ability and he can play defense as a big dude. I'm like, those two things, you can pass the ball and play defense, that's got Izzo written all over it, right? I'm like, why doesn't Izzo love this guy? But it took some things to iron some things out. But that whole thing seems to be heading in a positive direction. And like you said, Hogard says he wants to lead now through words and actions. I don't doubt that he wants to. I'm not sure he knows how. I'm not sure it's natural for him. He is boisterous. He's not like, clam quiet like some people have been in the past that's driven them crazy. Can he say the right things? It's a work in progress, but there's a lot of potential there. Great question. You are on the pulse of some of the things that are important for Michigan State basketball. Question 16, Steve from McKinney, Texas, says, Jim, just wondering if we should be concerned with the seemingly lack of commitments in the last few weeks, in addition to 2 decommitments. He says, I believe Coach Mel Tucker and what he's done. I believe in it. I'm just hoping the commitments pick up here soon. A lot of great recruits have been on campus here lately. They've been in the cars, etc. Would like to see some commitments. Or should I just stand down and be patient? I would say it's June. Michigan State's got, 11 commitments? 10. Top 20 class, several 4-stars. I can understand why you would get a little antsy because there was a chance, Michigan State started out strong in June with some commitments and all the visits coming in. Yeah, I can see why you could think, man, why don't we have 14 commitments by now? Why couldn't we have gotten more of those? I think that's going to happen. I think a lot of those guys are going to commit to Michigan State. I understand the frustration a little bit, but what you are is addicted to commitments now. That's not necessarily a bad thing. I understand it. Just relax. I think it's going to be all right. It might not be the TKO momentum that I thought was maybe building in early June. Like, man, because we didn't know where this was new territory. We didn't know where this was headed. It's like, are they going to just keep getting these guys? Is this top 5 thing going to happen? We didn't know. Hasn't happened. It's tough recruiting against Alabama and so forth. The Arkansas thing with Braxton. I like Braxton. In the meantime, Michigan State has had a chance to get some of these guys that have visited, and they've not pushed for a commitment. Like Michigan State put out some social media of Tucker and I think Brandon Jordan and Darian Harris and some other field coaches in Tucker's office with his shoes around and all that stuff. And they're looking at things, and the caption was something like, tough decisions, good problem, or something like that. They were making war room recruiting decisions. That's what that meant. There are 4-star recruits that they've been let's not push for that guy. I think we're going to get this guy. There's been at least one top 100 recruit that I know of that I think they could have gotten that they're we're going to go for this guy. So if they had unlimited scholarship space, I think they would have gotten 2 or 3 or 4 more of these guys. But there have been guys they've kind of backed off on because you only have so many scholarship slots. Like Rick Neuheisel says, there's only so many seats on the plane. And once you take some guys, then you're quitting on others. So on one hand, there have been some decommitments. On the other hand, there haven't been as many commitments. But on the third hand, they've backed off also because it's a fluid situation. Sola and Westland. This is the last question, number 18 or 17. Is it fair to assume that these summer official visits have been for Plan A recruits only? How many out of this group do you think Michigan State lands? Well, the answer is some of them are B-plus type of guys for the reasons I mentioned a moment ago. So, and we're still learning as we go. Year 3 of the Mel Tucker era. It's the first time that they've had a summer without COVID, coming off wins and June visits. I don't know how it's going to all shake out. We learn as we go. There's no mode of operation in terms of what we can usually expect from a Mel Tucker operation in the month of June. It's the first time we've seen it like this. How many members of this class that visited in June, how many people that visited in June will become members of this class? Wild guess, I'm thinking, I don't know, 80%, 85%, probably a couple more will come up in the fall, I'm guessing. But I think you got your commitments and then guys that visited in June. You've got 10 commitments right now plus the guys that visited in June. I'm guessing that group is going to be 85% of the class, I'm guessing. Just a wild guess. Like I said, we're learning as we go. All right, we got to wrap this thing up. Let's go back over here to the comments area, and we'll see how quickly we can go through this. People talking about NIL. I'll just breeze past it. Jackson Hitchcock says Michigan, Indiana, Penn State, best lineup. I would agree that if you're going to pick a lightweight, Indiana needs to be your lightweight trophy game border skirmish. It's not a border war, it's a border skirmish. That's what I call it, the border skirmish. The border skirmish. Hopefully, I'd like to see that catch on. The border skirmish. If it does, you heard it here first. It's not as great as Walmart Wolverine, something I coined back in 1997. Thank you very much. But I like it. But I like the border skirmish for the spittoon. Indiana was good 2 years ago. A little disappointing last year. Year in and year out, they're going to be a middleweight, right? So if you're going to lock one in, lock that one in. Lock in Penn State, sure. Lock in Michigan. I like what you're saying. I was talking about Northwestern earlier. Would you rather have Northwestern every single year or Indiana every single year? That's a good question. I like both. I like to play both. Can't play both. It's only going to be 3. All right. Jackson says 7.5 over-under is fair. Definitely can be anywhere from 6-6 to 10-10. Don't disagree with that. Brian V says, I love Northwestern. It's a protected game. That road trip is such a good time. Did it last year for the first time, and I'll do that trip every chance I get going forward. Good for you, Brian V. You've got the fever or the sickness or the virus or something. Good for you. Gary Lewis says, I liked the video at Washington. Is a tricky 22 road game. Liked which video? I had some video here of by Job, and I never ran it. It's running late now. Can we still sneak that on there? Would you guys mind? How many people got watching this thing right now? I know it's late. Let me see if I can find it. It's late. There's my map of Georgia. There's that. Man, I got too many screens up. Yeah, we got a few people still watching. Let's go ahead and run this one. By Job, defensive end. Michigan State's trying to get this kid. Gonna be making a decision here soon. Oh, I need to wait a minute. Wait. What's going on here? Wait a minute. How do I get out of this? Tell you what I'm going to do. I cut out of that thing. I got too many screens up. It kind of went haywire. I didn't want that sound going on. I kind of ran into an issue there. That's the cold weather. That's the spring practice stadium right there. How about the fall? We'll jazz it up with fall colors a little bit more. Fall press box. All right. Let me see if I can try that again. What was going on there? Why was it? I want that. I want to get. Where's the preview mode on this thing? Here we go. All right, we're going to abort that mission. Go back to the spring stadium. Let's wrap this thing up. Maybe next week. Not that one. Not that one. December. We'll go with that one. All right. Wait a minute. I still hear it here. If this were a plane, I would have crashed it. I thought I had a handle on this thing. Is it? No. Is that it? Is that it? Dang. Anyway, I still hear that audio in the background. Sorry about that. The show was going so well until I tried to goof it up with some video. I'll have to try that in rehearsal next time. Let's wrap this up and move on. Coming apart here at the end. Apologize. We still have a lot of people watching. 5051 Brother says Gopher is going to be tough for Michigan State. I would agree with that. Gary Lou says, though highly flawed, the University of Washington is making a rapid turnaround. Washington is doing surprisingly well in recruiting right now. Interesting. Gordon Tonone is calling 11-1. Calling it right now. 5051 Brother says Maryland got a high-powered offense. They were pretty good last year. That quarterback threw it around pretty good, ran around. Maryland was no joke last year. There was a nice little scrap they had at the end of the season to get into a bowl game. Who'd they play? 11th game, 12th game. Was it Rutgers? That's a nice little scrap. Brian V says 15-0. I told you he had a fever or a virus or something. Can we say virus? Too soon? Jackson Hitchcock says, I think Michigan State dropping one of Maryland, Minnesota, Illinois is more likely than not. Dropping one of them. Maryland, Minnesota, Illinois. Oh, losing one of those games. Maryland, Minnesota, Illinois. Dropping one of those three, more likely. Can't argue with that, I guess. What's going on here? Let me go down here to the... Man, I've got a lot of comments here. I still have some audio in my ear that should not be going on. It's bothering me a little bit. I'm in preview mode. What happened here? We better just land the plane. What else we have? There, it's finally over. Gary Lewis, 23-24, Ohio State will find Sparty rougher to deal with. Gary Lewis feeling good about it. Gordon Tonone, Mel Tucker is recruiting nationally. Let's see. Do we have any breaking news? Added 10 pounds of good weight. Talking about Tyler Hunt, I think. Jacob C. says he's already bet $100 on the over at 7.5 regular season wins for Michigan State. Sounds like a good bet for me, in my opinion. Gordon Tonone says Amber Reinstein. Did I say her name wrong? What'd I say? What'd I call her? I apologize if I got that wrong. Gary Lewis, corner, more urgent need for Michigan State right now. Marlon Milano, Tucker wants them big defensive backs. That's why he went after Amir Speed and Ronald Williams. True that. Gary Lewis says Tucker better than D'Antonio at roster management. It might look that way right now, but D'Antonio had some pretty good years and took a program that was on the mat and did some great things with it, and that took some roster management for sure. In terms of roster management, when Michigan State was at their at their zenith with Mark D'Antonio, 2013, 2014, 2015, Michigan State had very, 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 very little attrition. Guys wanted to stay in the program, even if they were third stringers. And some of those recruiting classes had only 10% attrition, which is unheard of. So that's roster management also. Now, in today's game, it's more allowed or even more necessary to move people out. Meritocracy, cut people. Might not be ethical. D'Antonio never did it. He said if we got a recruit and the recruit didn't pan out, that's our fault as coaches. We're not going to cut that kid loose. It's a philosophical thing. Did it hurt them competitively a little bit? Maybe so. But I had a lot of respect for the way they did it. I don't disrespect the way Tucker does it. That's the way it's done more and more these days. That's how you need to do it, to be competitive for what they're trying to do. But for D'Antonio to go 37-5 over a 3.5-year period, top 10 finishes, and to do it without cutting players was astonishing. And to do it with very, very little attrition, that's the way they the way his players followed him and appreciated the way he handled things, spoke loudly with the lack of attrition they had, and they did it while winning. When it comes to roster management, that's kind of A+ right there. Can't do it much better than that. So Tucker's doing a good job, but if you count roster management, cutting players and moving on, it's different. You know, the transfer portal's new. So would D'Antonio have done that very well? Probably not. He's old school. So Michigan State, when the transfer portal thing hit, they happened to get a perfect type of coach that wanted to hit the ground running and utilize that. And it turned out very well. So it's a different game now than it was 5 years ago, 6 years ago. And Michigan State was fortunate for things to change when they did. But it's a different, to say that someone is better at roster management now than somebody was 5 years ago, it's a different game. That's like saying, somebody's, Gordie Howe's better at hockey than Michael Jordan's at hockey. It's two different sports. Roster management is two different things now compared to 5 years ago. All right. Talking about Malcolm Jones' dad here a little bit. Glad that he called in. Let's just zip through this and call it a night. Getting toward. All right. Ryan Roseberg says King Mack to Michigan State tomorrow. Good question. King Mack, a nice safety. 5'10 and a half. Fort Lauderdale. You watch his film, and he's supposed to be committing to either Michigan State or Penn State Thursday around noon, I guess. So by the time some people watch this, that will have already taken place. At this moment, I'm not really sure. It seemed like, Michigan State was, it looks like 50-50 Michigan State, Penn State. I can't call it right now. Things could change. Things could have changed since we came on the air. I'm not sure. But Michigan State was interesting the way that they were behaving, the coaches today about King Mack on social media. Michigan State coaches were retweeting a lot of things that were out there talking about King Mack going to Michigan State. Just things that like the general population were putting out there. They were retweeting it. What does that mean? Does that mean that they're excited because they're getting the guy? Or are they trying to add that little push, any push they can at the end to try to get him? That's what I think it was, the latter. I think they're just trying to, I think they think they're in it. If they thought they weren't getting him, they wouldn't be as outward, they wouldn't be doing that as much. But I think they feel like they got a chance, but they're trying to push it over the edge. That was my read on that. So I'm not really sure. But a little safety, 5'11", as a hitter, reminds me of Travis Key a little bit. Travis Key, former walk-on, little safety that could really hit hard. This guy hits nicely. But his true talent, you watch his film, you can see it right away. The ball skills, deep ball judgment. I mean, he makes diving, picturesque interceptions. Tremendous hands as a safety. Little dude going up, high pointing it. Just, one after another, after another, after another. I don't know when I've seen a safety make picturesque interceptions like this dude. And what I haven't seen is him, is he a guy that can, just scrape across and make a real great run, stop tackle? That Mike Doss tackle. That's asking a lot. He's 5'11". But the ball judgment looks exquisite, and he hits hard enough. The tackling piece, sideline to sideline, looked okay. He looks like more of a hawk tackling rather than closing the gate. So he's been taught to hawk tackle, and that's not as physical, but it can be effective. But if he were like a great hitter, like Bob Sanders or something, then he'd be a ridiculous 4-star. He hits well enough, but the ball skills are good. Penn State likes him. Michigan State likes him. At this point, not sure. Be interesting one to check out and follow tomorrow. All right, I think we might just... Gary Lewis says, any updates on progress or improvement of either quarterback, Hauser, Hamp, Fay, and the rest, or wide receiver Jeremy Bernard? Jeremy Bernard was good in the spring. Just getting his feet wet. 4-star guy, mid-year guy. Looks good. Not hearing anything this summer. Quarterbacks, I heard that they like Hauser. Coaches weren't really saying who's leading in that whole thing. They wanted to keep it quiet because I think they wanted to bring all of them back. If they come out and say somebody's second, somebody's third, somebody's fourth, whoever's fourth is probably going to transfer out. They didn't want those guys to transfer out. Hampton Fay, flashes nice talent with a big frame and running ability here and there. I think Noah Kim is steadier. Caton Hauser, at the scrimmage, I thought Caton Hauser was a little less than the other two because he's brand new. But I've heard from some other people that they really like him, maybe even to be number 2 this fall. I mean, I've just kind of heard some of that. I've not heard that from the best sources. But I think all 3 of them are in play to be number 2 by October 1st. In terms of August 30th, I'm kind of thinking Noah Kim is number 2. But Noah Kim is the one of the 3 that they didn't recruit, but Noah Kim has been hanging around. He hasn't left the program. I don't know. It's a great question, but they're keeping that one close to the vest. Nicholas Ruckert wants to know how everything's going at Moneyball. I'll be there tomorrow. We'll have a report at SpartanMag. Jackson Hitchcock says, I think it was the moral act of 1862. Lincoln was just some guy in 1855. That's right. Lincoln didn't become president until, 1860? 62? 60, 64, 60. Then the crap hit the fan. Jackson Hitchcock, young guy, showing some history knowledge there. Yeah, Nicholas, you can find those YouTube clips here. Paul Konradijk did a great job. With video last week of Moneyball. Check it out over there. Jackson Hitchcock, Pony Express 2.0, running back at SMU. Okay, now I got you. Pony Express. Well, I appreciate that you're aware of the Pony Express, Craig James and Eric Dickerson. But that was a great backfield for a top 10 team. One of the best teams money could buy back then. Top 5 team at SMU. 1982 running backs, like Gary Lewis says. Pony Express backfield was great. I formation, Lance McElhenney. Hugh's son. Quarterback, option offense for SMU. Very good team. Cheated like crazy. Death penalty. But Craig James, Eric Dickerson, great fullback, tailback tandem. Broussard and Berger, no. Good, solid players. Good. Broussard, Pac-12 Player of the Year 2 years ago. Last year was pretty good. Berger, last year kind of lost his job, lost favor a little bit. Compared him to Dickerson and James, a bit much. You might want to look into the Pony backfield of Michigan State 1952 national champion. Billy Wells, was it Evan Slonak? Can't remember what they're called. Pony backfield. I think they were little guys. Maybe Slonak was a bigger guy for one of the other teams. I should know that. But Billy Wells was the main guy, MVP of the Rose Bowl. 52? That was at Michigan State, the Pony backfield. That was a takeoff on the Four Horsemen of Notre Dame from 1924. And it didn't quite get the publicity of the Four Horsemen, but that's what they were kind of going for. I think they might have went as far as to try to get a photo op with all 4 of them on ponies, but I don't know if the photo ever came about. Saskatchewan and Missoula, Montana. We're going to all corners today. Jack says, can't wait for September 2nd. That's what I'm talking about at the outset of this program. Don't wish your summer away unless you live down in the deep south in the Sun Belt when you're tired of summer now. But I can wait till September 2nd. I love college football, but I can wait till September 2nd. Thank you very much. This guy keeps asking about Florida State. It's Allison. Thanks for asking about Florida State, but I can't really help you. Gordon Tonona letting us know he lives in South Georgia. I don't know who this. I don't know what this Florida State thing is. Florida State fans coming in. Good for them. All right. What do we have here? Who's this? Kerry Tim says Penn State needs to remain the last game of the year above all else. I agree with Kerry Timms. I like that as the last game of the year. Brian V says Michigan State versus Penn State Thanksgiving weekend just feels right. Heavyweight schedule or not needs to happen. I feel you on that, and I agree. JJ McKay, 6-man-1 says, go to your safe space. No one is being mean. This is an MSU show, is all we are saying. Oh, talking about Allison, the Florida State person. Ryan C's a Michigan fan coming in. Have to ban him. Penn State, Michigan, and some easy team like Northwestern. That's what Kerry Tim says. You might be right. Kerry Tim says, I'd rather protect Penn State over Michigan. I don't agree with that, but you're entitled to your opinion. Looks like Allison is getting the information now. You guys are being mean to Allison? I know you're not. Taking up chat space. Okay. You're not stupid. We're okay. We're okay, Allison. Everything's good. I don't know what's going on here. Okay. Com said earlier he wants to look at the schedule first before giving. All right. All right. I hope Allison's going to be okay. We're about ready to wrap this thing up. I'm just going through the chat area. You're probably following along with me, and Jack says, I'm really proud of Collins for sticking it out at Michigan State for his career. I am too. You know, he's done a nice job with that. And he still has a COVID year, so if things don't work out for him this year, I could see him going to another school next year possibly. But he's a great teammate. He was always very supportive of Kenneth Walker. Elijah Collins was a great teammate last year. Brian V says, I can recall when A.J. Hogard was the SpartanMag joke on the Final Forum message board as a freshman. I was one of the few that defended him. Now everyone loves him. Laughing out loud. Okay, Brian. Helmet sticker for you and Hobbit sticks as well. Jack says, I have your back, Brian V. I have always liked Hogard. He was out of shape as a freshman, and we only saw a shell of him. And quite frankly, I was like, man, didn't seem like a type of guy that they would normally recruit, but he's really proven himself lately. And I'll be watching him tomorrow, Hogard and some others, over at Moneyball, and we'll have continued coverage going into as June comes to an end. Hope everybody has a great July 4th weekend. That's coming up, right? July 4th, it's not a weekend, it's a week. It's midweek next week. Sorry I screwed up that audio a minute ago. I was trying to play some video by Job. By the time we do another one of these, maybe he'll be committed to Michigan State by then. We'll take a look at it at that point. Anyway, I appreciate everybody with all the posts, all the support, and of course Don with the personal sponsorship and the tip jar. Appreciate that. Appreciate the likes. Appreciate people subscribing. Go over to SpartanMag.com. Check out becoming a SpartanMag.com magger. We'd like to see you over there, and we'll see it. We'll be back. I don't know about next week. You know, we're getting into vacation time a little bit, July 4th and so forth. Maybe we can put together just an audio podcast to throw up over on Podbean. We'll have to wait and see. I haven't done that in a long time. This has kind of replaced that, but I'll be in a different location for a day or two coming up. So we'll just see what happens. Anyway, appreciate everybody stopping by. Appreciate you making Spartan Mag Live part of your Wednesday night. We do it on different days of the week. We will get a set schedule at some point, and when we do, our numbers will go up, and we'll have more happy people like Allison tuning in. So bless her heart. Hope she's doing well tonight, and hope everybody has a great evening and a great couple days into a great weekend. Take care, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.